EMMANUEL FERNANDEZ, centre half, 6'4". NASSER and DJIGA, centre half, 6'4". Joe Rothwell, centre mid, 6'1". THELO AASGAARD, who has got the number 11 jersey, so you're thinking left winger. Apparently can play right wing as well. We can play at 10. So you're thinking tricky player, fleet of foot, light of foot, dainty, almost as these kind of players, these creative players are required to be. And apparently is all these things. He's 6'2". He's so part Norwegian that he's playing for the Norway national team, the Norwegian national team, one of the most infamously physical sides in the history of international football. We've got Max Aarons coming in right back. He's a paltry 5'10", but he's also 5'10" across the way. And just in case you're not getting the message, before he's even kicked a ball for Rangers, he's told the club captain to get shifted out the right back berth. Tav's going into centre half because he's taking the right back berth, Max Aarons, but he's also simultaneously taking the number 3 jersey. Alfred Van Yilmaz, he's basically owned both the fullback positions before he's even arrived at the club. And then, of course, you've got Lyall Cameron, who, just to look at him, you know he's been signed by the previous regime, pre-contract from Dundee. That was tied up before the consortium took over, certainly well before Russell Martin was in there, never mind Kevin Thelwell, Dan Purdy. And it was maybe a bit of a mistake letting him come out onto the park last week with his wee calf injury, so he couldn't play in the friendly against Bruges last Sunday, but neither could Joe Rothwell and THELO AASGAARD, so the three of them come out at half-time in that game just to say hello to the crowd. And Lyall Cameron was in the middle. That was a mistake. He was in between the two of them. It just looked like, AASGAARD and Rothwell were a gay kind of power couple, and nothing against that, but it was the fact that they brought their wee boy with him. He looked like a toddler, did young Lyall Cameron. But did you see the footage of him turning up at Auchenhowie for his medical? Arriving in the 4x4. 4x4. 4 women. He brought the entire harem, 4 different women he had in that motor, and he's saying to them, "You will just follow me in here." He's cruising into the doctor's office and all that. Don't worry, I'll strip off in front of the 4 of them. They've seen this before, getting his medical. He's living at large. He's living at large as Lyall Cameron, so he's going to fit right into this overwhelming amount of players that Rangers are signing under the head coachment of Russell Martin. And we've gone immediately from thinking, Russell Martin, he's just ticky-taka light, isn't it? He's just read too much about football. He's listened to too many Radio 4 documentaries about Pep Guardiola. He's read Jonathan Wilson's Inverting the Pyramid, like as pseudo-intellectuals have, as wannabe intellectuals have read that, and they think that we know how to lay out proper possession football and that kind of thing. It's not going to be able to cope with the physicality, the reality of Scottish football. You're not thinking that anymore, are you? It's like he's heard all that, Russell Martin, and he's decided to go completely the other way and get into these absolute units who are going to just overwhelm Scottish football. And it's me that's overwhelmed. It's me that's overwhelmed right now. Do these podcasts, and I start off a lot of them with a snagging list of snagging items from the previous pod, and I was already kind of stuttering and stammering all the way through that one. My post-match reaction pod after the Bruges game, I'd just get back off a flight. Well, it was a Friday, really, coming back. It was a week ago, the day that I flew back from my week in Berlin. Is he going to keep talking about his holiday in Berlin? Yeah, I'm going to talk about it until the end of the year, really. It'll be 2026 before I stop talking about the week that I had in Berlin. EasyJet flights direct for Glasgow at a time. I mean, it's the easiest thing. It's actually easier than going to Edinburgh Castle now, going to Berlin, but I'm going to make out that I'm super exotic because I did that. Last year, my 25th wedding anniversary, we went to Nashville, and I spoke about that all the way up to this year. Well, same scenario. All my analogies, all my comparisons, just going to be shifted. It's the kind of football podding equivalent of what you used to get in the 70s, where you'd go and visit your uncle, who was actually an accountant, and he managed to get himself one of the kind of villas, in Ayr, the kind of semi-detached sandstone villa things. And you're thinking, how good we'll go along. You used to go into your other aunties and uncles where your father would get a hoff and all that, and the cans would be getting dished out, and you'd be at the back door playing football. But no, you would go along there, and they had a piano and like a wee 6-foot snooker table in a dining room. And then you would get the little cheese cubes and the pineapple cubes on a cocktail stick, and he would turn the lights off. You think, what's going on here? I've heard about you middle class types, but he would actually put on the screen. He would start doing his slides of their holiday in Mallorca or whatever they'd gone to, and it was just, oh God, it was brutal. It was absolutely. I'm the equivalent of that football pod. Just any excuse to slip in my holidays, because usually a lot of the time it's better than talking about Rangers, but that might not be the case this season. But I just come back, and my ear hadn't popped yet for the plane, for coming back down into Glasgow Airport, and I was just trying to do a wee kind of post-match reaction. It was also shoveling in all the stuff that had been happening the previous week, but because I'd been on holiday, trying to actually spend time with my other half. I was, are you looking at Rangers stuff? I thought I was supposed to be. No, I am. No, I'm looking. I hadn't really got to grips with what exactly was going on, so it was half a kind of catch up, half a kind of, in fact, less than half of an actual post-match reaction pod to a friendly with Bruges, and I just wasn't getting it right at all. Even my analogies. I'd seen a bit of Glasgow. I'd seen a bit of Glastonbury. I'd seen a bit of it on Vogue, and I was talking about how I was trying to do this whole painful kind of analogy metaphor at the end of the pod about how on Vogue, the kind of same age as me, taking you back to the 80s, early 90s, when Rangers were dominant domestically. So that was a wee thinking about not doing too well in Europe terms, but I had to be really careful with that one, because 92-93 was one of my greatest ever seasons in Europe, so I had to be really specific about it. And I was talking about how I loved girl groups that become women groups. That sounded really dodgy, and I never, Spice Girls, Bewitched were too hardcore for me. I couldn't really get into them at all. All Saints, they were garbage. I was just getting too old by that point. It was when I was young. I liked the old, like the Shangri-Las and all that kind of thing. And the great thing about On Vogue set at Glastonbury was I was thinking, this is the tightest bit. And that was the whole point. The whole point was that they've been doing this. They're almost like 10-year Vegas residency, tight in their dance moves and their delivery and their crowd work and what have you. It's just because they're a bit older, or have you, about the same age as me, doesn't mean it's any less sexy. It's properly sexy because it's just genuine, and they love it. They're not just doing it to get famous. They've got as famous as they're going to get. They're doing it to actually entertain people. And I'm thinking, that's what I want to see for Rangers again. But it's not going to happen like that, because it'll be going 2-0 down and get booed off the park at half time against Club Bruges. But that's just because Russell Martin was mixing and matching his various options. He was just testing players out. It was a fitness test as much as anything else, that game against Bruges. We draw 2 each and everybody's happy by the end of the game. But just try to say it's going to take us a while to get as tight in our little moves and the interplay, the Rangers players, all these new signings coming into the club under a new ownership regime. And we'll never be like we've appeared 3 times a day for like 6 days a week at Vegas type kind of dance routine, girls doing the dance. And I thought it was quite, what I was trying to explain when I was watching On Vogue last Friday night, I'm thinking they're going through a few of their old hits and all that, which I remember because I'm the same age as them. It's my era. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is great. They're absolutely killing it out there. This is one of the performances. Like, it's no, oh, let's look sexy for the boys. It's, we feel sexy. And if you can like it or lump it, if you don't, we're enjoying ourselves. That kind of, it's all a bit private. It's like, if you're any kind of, wimpish man like myself, you're thinking, don't get involved here. This is a thing amongst the women themselves. And I hadn't seen anything like that since LYALL, the old footage, Ogre Whistle Test, Patty LaBelle doing Creole Lady Marmalade. Coca Loco Frappuccino, all that kind of stuff. That's an amazing performance. It's repeated all the time on BBC 4, but it's just iconic. Look it up on the internet, on YouTube if you want to. It's certainly better than listening to this podcast, but I thought I'd never see it. And then On Vogue went into a little kind of medley, kind of Stars on 45 thing of all the great female groups, all the other great singers, females that they love, and they went into Dane LaBelle's Coca. It's all working out, and I'm hoping that's what's going to happen with this new Rangers team, this new Rangers squad that Russell Martin's putting together. But I didn't mention that, and I didn't mention Igaman. I was stuttering and stammering on it, but as if I knew what I was talking about. Listen to the team today, a lot of changes, a lot of additions, a lot of substitutions. It's a pre-season friendly, But obviously, I know that John Suter was in the stand, and Cyril Dessers has been in negotiations with AEK Athens. That's not working out, so they weren't there today. And Lyle Cameron's coming at half time because he's got the wee calf strain in AASGAARD and Rothwell have just arrived. I forgot to mention Igaman. I forgot to mention Hamza Igaman, who's the biggest deal at Rangers right now from last season probably, and the fact that he never appeared at all. The manager then put it right. He told us post-match that with Hamza Hawd-Up, it was issues with his visa coming back from Morocco. Good. Aye, quite right. Brexit means Brexit. Keep these Muslims, keep them out of the country. These North Africans, we don't want them turning up in our country, do we? Aye, that's damn right. There should be problems with his visa. He's doing it at St George's Park in Button, and he go back eventually. So he's back training with the team, Hawd-Up. But I forgot to even mention him, and I thought, this just isn't good enough. So I'm going to pick up a few of the items that I forgot to mention. A few things I forgot to mention about the Bruges game last Sunday, and also just try and do something to keep up with this absolute tsunami of players that are coming in. There's always a lot of signings and comings and goings, any kind of pre-season at Rangers, but it's just happening so quick, and it's all so interesting, and it all feels so competent. It's like a kind of... it's overwhelming, and I can't keep up with it, but I love it. You know, an avalanche. I've been stuck in an avalanche of donuts. You know, I'm going to eat my way through them till I kill myself. But it's overwhelming, but I love it. You know, like I'm drowning in like Paulaner or Francis Canner. See, I mentioned the German beers that you can actually get in Scotland. You can see on the shelves in Morris and that, so you know that I'm doing references in Germany. You know, it's like a tsunami of Weiss beer. You know, I'm kind of drowning, but I love it. I can't keep up with it. It's going to be overwhelming, but I love it. This is what it should be like. Rangers are just buying in all these players, and it's just, oh my God, it's so exciting. It's just nice. Doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere. Doesn't mean it's going to be a success, but it's certainly got all the hallmarks of a success. It's very, very refreshing just to be playing out our own stadium, to have had a friendly at our own stadium. So for that in itself was lovely. You know, we're not Hampden. We're not, the closest we're getting to a pre-season friendly is Manchester United playing at home at a Murrayfield. You know, that was all we got last season. No, we played Manchester United twice last season. No, I played Man United in Scotland and Old Trafford. Almost been a European tie, home and away. No, we only played them at Old Trafford in Europe, and we played them at Murrayfield. And none of them was a home game for us. It kind of summed it up last season, didn't it? Playing out of Hampden for those 4 games at the beginning of the season, but it was all very weird. There's a real stability with the club. We had 3 chairmen last season. With 2 managers, you know, it's just nice to feel as if everything's focused and everything's comfortable again. How you doing, folks? Sorry, this is your Fat Eck. I thought you were away on holiday. You said you weren't going to get back to us until the Panathinaikos game. What the hell are you doing talking to us now? Yeah, you fat git. Is it just because you don't want to do the washing and put all your pants and all that out the suitcase into the washing machine after you've been away? Yeah, I'm having a bit of a staycation. I'm going to go away next week. Not school holidays. It's quite fluid and all that. But I just need to, as I say, catch up with all the players that have arrived. Or else the next pod I'm going to have today is going to be 4 hours long. You know, I just want to get to a stage where I've caught up with all the major stuff that's happening, so I can just do wee half-hour pods, 20-minute pods. You know, a couple of them a week that I've been promising you. But right now, it looks like Rangers are absolutely sure. These players we're signing, Rangers are absolutely certain not to get relegated from the EFL Championship next season. We're not going back to League One. We're maybe even a chance, a wee outside shout of getting into the playoffs, getting up at Wembley. And our current head coach Russell Martin, well, he's got 100% records, hasn't he? At Wembley in the most expensive game, or the richest game in world football. He's won it as a captain. He's won it as a manager. So it's looking quite good for next season. Reaction pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Check out Jersnet during the season, mostly every Friday night, 9 p.m. live on the Jersnet YouTube channel. Sunday, the flagship show, 9:30 live on the Jersnet YouTube channel. Available across all other platforms after that as well. And I'm also sponsored by the Warburton 6 White Rolls. Warburton 6 White rolls that are soft and sliced. They've got a wee kind of football number 6. You know, Joe Rothwell, he's going to be playing number 6. And there's a football on them as well. Like they're meant for barbecues during perhaps a Women's European Championship, but they've no actually got a sanctioned official deal with UEFA. So they've got these, but wait, and that was the first half last week, wasn't it? The first half last Sunday against Bruges. We were sliced and diced at the back. Leon King, Robin Proper, just not centre halves at all. Our previous man, Philip Clement, Belgian international centre half. You know, defensive mid as well, I think, but he couldn't sign centre halves. I know he wanted the team to be going forward and that, but my God. Well, so I mean, didn't sign Leon King, did he? But he just couldn't organise a central defence. Could our last full-time manager. So that's first half was like sliced and soft and sliced. I thought that was really clever. But the second half, they're burger baps. They're Warburtons. They're actually burger baps, but they can't have a deal with beef burgers either. They must have some sort of kind of trademarking thing going on, but they can't call them burger baps. They're just 6 white rolls that are soft and sliced. And the second half was more like a good barbecue burger when it was soft and it was greasy and it was tasty and it was entertaining. It was very slick as well. So that's the kind of painful patter you can look forward to. This Sunday service, patchy service, continues on the Fat Egg podcast. Are you on holiday? Are you here? I'd like to be on holiday. I would like to be on holiday. I'm not going to lie to you. Last season, it's like, preview pod for every game. Oh, we're playing Dundee United midweek when we can't finish any higher than second, and we can't finish any lower than second, and they can't. It's going to be big preview. I'm trying to find ways that's meaningful, what it means for Barry Ferguson's legacy and stuff like that. And then there's a post-match reaction straight after that. If you're outside Airbox, and I'm going on for 3/4 of an hour about everything we can read into the goings on in that game itself. Twice a week, like 4 or 5 pods a week sometimes that I'm belting out. Then when the season finishes, and with one of the most controversial decisions ever seen in Scottish football, the goal that we scored against Hibs that turned into somehow a goal for Hibs. I'm done. Fine. That just sums up this. I've got it covered, and then I'm on Jersey Night the following night, and that's the season wrapped up. But that's when it all starts happening. That's when everything starts happening. Consortium buyover gets confirmed. We get the new head coach in, and now we've got all these signings. I'm on holiday last week. I'm checking my phone. We've got the ticket. We've got the ticket, the 7-day pass for being in Berlin. You just get the trains. It covers everything. You can go anywhere. You don't need to get a taxi for the airport. Just get on the S-Bahn and you get. And right, let's just check that ticket. Dad, look at that! There's a notification. We've signed a guy who was Wolves bought for 10 million for registered Belgium. What the fuck? I'm on holiday, and I'm on holiday. Right, let's go to Unterden Linden. Let's go to the Brandenburg Gate and all that. I'll just check my phone so I can translate what that word means. I'll just get on the Google Translate there and just we signed a guy for Bournemouth, who's a fullback. No, was it Valencia? What the fuck? No, I'm not doing podding. I'm not doing the Rangers pod, and I can't get it out of my system because I can't do the podcast. I'm supposed to be on holiday, so it is ruining my summer holidays, but in the best possible way. Sorry, folks. My name's Alec Anderson. I often tell myself that we could be more than just friends. I know you think that if we move too soon, it will all end. I live in misery when you're not around. And I won't be satisfied till we're making those vows. There'll be some love making, heartbreaking, soul shaking. Well, imagine being the focus of that. Imagine being the recipient of that sentiment sung that way with such musicality, such just desire. Well, Russell Martin doesn't have to imagine because he felt, getting booed off at half time. Getting booed off at half time because they're 2-0 down in a friendly where he's clearly put out half his reserve team. Half the guys he just try to confirm to themselves why they'll not be playing for Russell Martin's Rangers. Makes it easier for him to go, you can see you're not fitting into my system before he gets rid of them, whatever way he's got to get rid of them. But that's clear to everybody. But meantime, we've also applauded. There was a Dutch fella who's put the ball into the top corner. An absolutely cracking finish. He had to pit Bruges 2-0 up. It was a Norwegian fella scored their first goal. So we're applauding as if to say, we know football. We know football, Russell. We understand how this game works. But we're going to boo you after half time because as far as we're concerned, you're fucking shit. The one thing that the Rangers support, myself included, often can't really do is context. We're not very good at applying the wider context. We don't care who's on the park, we don't care the situation. You're getting beat 2-0 at home at half time. You're getting booed at. It wasn't everybody. The crowd was only. I did say one thing for me. I will say I did say last week the crowd. You'd be lucky if it was 30,000. You'd be lucky if it was hitting the 30,000 mark. 29,480. You're welcome. That was just. If only I'd paid enough attention. I didn't see the goal that the Dutch fella scored to pit Bruges 2-0 up because I was talking to Davey, my pal, who missed the last few games of last season. He'd stuff today. So I was we're chatting away. His wife was here, I met her before. We were chatting away. I'm too busy chatting the face off them to actually watch what was happening on the park. It was a disgrace. It was a disgrace of a post-match reaction pod, as this is a disgrace of a catch-up pod. But it's going to have to be done, folks, because there's just too much going on not to pod about it. But Russell Martin is just under no illusions now as to how the Rangers support operates. He's played for us and he was crap, so he's had the full brunt of what the Rangers support is all about in that 6 months. He was at Ibrox, a very bad 6 months for us all, really. Not that it's Russell Martin's fault. But it's what's it gonna be? 'Cause I can't pretend. Oh, don't you wanna be more than free. Yeah, I do want to be more than friends, Russell. I want to adore you, and it's always this, we've got so much love to give, so much passion to give. But just like on Vogue, we know the world. We're no, young and naive and all that. Maybe a bit high maintenance at times, a bit high maintenance, but we have the love. It's ready to give, Russell. And just I'm on the cusp just now. I'm on the absolute cusp of giving it over far too soon. Let's have a look at some of these signings then. I should actually probably talk about the guys that we've signed. That would help, Alec, if it's supposed to be some sort of Rangers podcast. Emmanuel FERNANDEZ. He wears the number 37 jersey because of his brother who passed away at age 37. It's only 22, nearly 23, I think. Emmanuel FERNANDEZ. Right, so many of these signings are 22, 23. That kind of area of the age bracket. But his brother passed away, and it's just such a weird, kind of tragic coincidence, isn't it? Scotty Arfield. Remember, he wore 37 because his young teammate that we all know tragically, horrendously, lost his life. That terrible freak training accident at Falkirk, and we've got another player coming in wearing the 37 jersey, a testament to somebody who's passed away. But Emmanuel FERNANDEZ, impressive big fella, impressive wee interviews we're getting on Rangers TV with all these chaps. Spalding United, Sheppey United, Margate, Ramsgate, Barnet, Gillingham. These are some of the clubs, some of the esteemed clubs that are on the CV of Emmanuel FERNANDEZ. But it was at Peterborough, the old alma mater of our new head coach, Russell Martin. It was at Peterborough that he made his name, that he stepped up to great. He was talking about that himself, how in the first season, 2 seasons he's been playing really for Peterborough as they struggle to stay in League One, has to be said, under Alex Ferguson's boy. But I think he made like 4 appearances, he said, in his first season there, and then last season, I think it was around about 30. He was a regular in the side. And Peterborough United fans, from what I saw online, as I was supposed to be enjoying my holiday in Berlin, I was like, what are they saying about him? What are they saying about this guy? They were very happy to see him go. They couldn't believe that Rangers were paying money to sign him permanently. I think it was a 4-year contract. So he's the most Billy Bean, Oakland A's, data-driven, algorithmic, stats-based signing of the lot. He's the evidence, you would say, Emmanuel FERNANDEZ, that there's a blueprint that's been adhered to here. It's not the kind of guy. This is maybe the problem. Rangers fans, as I say, have gone from thinking he's too tippy-tappy, ticky-taka, theoretical. Russell Martin and his managerial thinking. The way he wants to lay his team out, the way he wants to play. We've gone from thinking that to he's just basically going to lump it. He's just going to lump it, and everybody's going to chase after it. He's going to be Jack Charlton's Republic Island team. Sorry folks, it's the 12th tomorrow, but I'm going to be Jack Charlton's Republic Island team, going to World Cups and European Championships by just hitting it into the corner and getting the big guys to chase after it. So I think we've gone from one worry to the other extremes about Russell Martin's tactical vision. And I think this is one where we can at least say that the Moneyball thing, the data-driven stuff that we've been promised by Russell himself and by Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marath, our new owners, is bang on. Well, we certainly hope that. It's not just we've signed a guy for Peterborough that nobody likes. It doesn't sound very inspiring. NASSER JIGA, he's taking the Fabio Silva route to Ibrox. The Rangers came to Wolverhampton Town, and ever since then, big money signings that go to Wolverhampton Town and can't get again for the first team come back up to Ibrox Town, to Govan Town, on loan to Rangers. He's from a Burkina Faso international. He's played for Burkina Faso at AFCON, at the African Cup of Nations. He's played for Red Star Belgrade, Crvena Zvezda Belgrade. That's a Serbo-Croat in there. He's played in Ligue 2 for Nîmes Olympique. This is the French mixed with the Serbo-Croat. I'm doing the German stuff already. You will be multilingual by the time you listen to a Fat Egg podcast. He's already busted his head open. Centre half, again, 23, 24 years old, I think he is. I think it's about 23 September, November time. Later on, the first half of the season, he'll turn 23, and he did a fantastic interview. He went to Newcastle. Newcastle, God, everybody goes to Newcastle. He went to Wolverhampton Wanderers at the new year, just the January transfer window there, and hasn't been able to get into the first team. He went there from Red Star Belgrade. His big breakthrough was at Basel in Switzerland, so it's a good level. He goes to Nîmes Olympique, Ligue 2, the second tier in France, Alec. and does well there. So is it Red Star Belgrade, who are always really, really physical, the Serbs, but always really, really technical as well. So it's good schools he's been at, and he can't quite get into the Wolves first team, which is, to be fair, is laden with quality compared to the Scottish leagues. But he was doing a great interview with his English. He's obviously been picking up for the last 6-7 months. He was talking about Scotland as Écosse, but it's clear that he wants his name to echo through eternity. I've not seen Gladiator 2. I've heard it's absolutely horrendous. I've seen Gladiator 1 plenty of times, like we all have, and it seems like he's picked up in that kind of attitude. He wants his name to be remembered after he's gone. Well, you have to a cracking start. You have to a cracking start, big man. You will so far be remembered as a guy who cracked his skull open during that passing drill in his first time. They're all doing it. They're all doing it. Burton upon Trent. They're all doing it at St George's Park. The England national team's training facility are Rangers. It's all over Rangers TV, who are doing the messagings there. You've got the three lions behind them, and I think was it NASSER when he arrived there, his first training session with his new teammates, and they've got the Union Jack flying in the background. The England team shouldn't have this away strip that we've got is copying the England home kit of just now, which is the England kit of the 70s, which is a Union Jack, and it shouldn't be because Scotland's Britain, Wales is Britain, it is UK, Britain, Northern Ireland's Britain. Union Jack's for all of us. This is within for the countries within that constituent nations. Just stick to your St George's cross, that they've got in the St George's Park logo. But anyway, it's Rangers, it's Union Jacks, fair enough. So big Nasser, he's getting signed up there, and he's already busted his head open in the training drill. So he's mental. He's a banger. That's the kind of guy we like. That's the kind of centre half we like. And I know there's a lot of talk about THELO AASGAARD, who will come to, who's taking the number 11 jersey. It's making us all wax lyrical about the legacy we have of great left wingers at Rangers, guys who wore that jersey with absolute pride. But the thing that's been bothering me most recently, the real legacy at Rangers is I think maybe goalkeeper is perhaps almost the most iconic position at Rangers. We've got a big thing for goalies, good goalies, and we haven't had them recently. And centre halves, the Iron Curtain, a good solid defence. Like Davy Meikle-John was the centre half, and this is the days when the formation was different. Inverting the pyramid, Jonathan Wilson, your fullbacks were in before, and like George Young, you always think he was huge, that as well. But he was a centre half, but he went into kind of fullback mostly. Played centre half for a few seasons, but you always think about George Young, that Tiger Shaw as well. I think he was a fullback as well, wasn't he, Tiger Shaw? You think Bobby Sheeran, he's a fullback as well, but I don't actually know any centre halves that ever played for Rangers. Willie Woodburn, you've got Richard Gough, for God's sake, Terry Butcher, and somebody shouting at Nasser Jiggy yesterday, Terry Butcher, there when he's getting the bandage put on, and he doesn't know who they're talking about. But to get Terry Butcher at St George's Park, to get a Terry Butcher treatment, to get the bandage on your part, that's the kind of centre half we want. But that's the iconic position for Rangers. To watch us last season get owned by St Mirren. And we beat Celtic home and away. Put 3 goals past Celtic at Parkhead, Hampden and Ibrox in 3 different each of those venues last season. They weren't the problem. It was Motherwell. Motherwell took more points off us than we took off them. Sorry, St Mirren. That's the Stephen Robinson thing. But Motherwell were a problem as well. But St Mirren dominated us home and away at one point, and it was just Clinton Nsiala's gone. He's away. That's it. Clinton Nsiala, he's very technically gifted and all that kind of thing. He's big and all that. St Mirren were eating him for breakfast. They were eating Robin Proper for breakfast as well. That was, for a Rangers supporter, for me, that was humiliating to watch. That was the stuff that properly gets me, is when our defence is getting bullied. I mean, all lasagna just had us for breakfast. I like to have lasagna for breakfast, but it's all lasagna as a fella at St Mirren, and St Mirren just ate us for breakfast, knocking us off the ball and that kind of thing. No respect whatsoever. That's not going to happen next season. I would not think. We might get outplayed, but I don't think we're going to get anybody beating us in a physical battle, looking at the profile of the players the manager's bringing in. THELO AASGAARD, wearing that number 11. Oh, son, you are setting yourself up there wearing that number 11 jersey. But apparently, I'm hearing it's Rangers Review. I get my Rangers news, Rangers Review, same as the rest of you. They're talking about how, I think it's Derek Clark, fantastic journalist, and he's talking about how he's not actually an out-and-out left wing, and he can play right wing, he can play 10 and all that. So just a bit like Aaron's coming in taking the number 3 jersey, even though he wants to play right back. I don't really read too much into that jersey number, but he's obviously a bit of a skillster and an absolute unit. We've all seen the footage on Rangers TV, these little videos they're putting out from St George's Park, different little quarter-hour videos of the training drills and what have you, and he's just huge. He's absolutely huge, but also pretty rapid. So he looks good. Yeah, like everybody else, I went straight onto Wikipedia and I'm seeing all the Norwegian stuff. And he's played for Norway, he's scored for Norway. Then he gets interviewed on Rangers TV, and he's Scouse. He's born in Liverpool. His youth training, his youth career was at Anfield. It was quite a thing. Apparently, his mum and dad. I think his mum's like a musicologist. His dad's heavily into music. He's an actual musician. That AASGAARD himself is a bit of a musician, a bit of a producer. He loves the hip hop. He loves the rap. He says like an old man. He loves all that hippity hoppity stuff. But asking him what would be the tune you would sing, your initiation song, that traditional in football these days, where you get the guy in to embarrass him in a way that just breaks down. It's a real icebreaker. They sing a song. You've got to sing a song now if you're going to join our team. You sing a song to your teammates, and he said the Norwegian national anthem. The Norwegian. You've got to. I'm not trying to tell. A youth of today, again, THELO AASGAARD, what is he, 21, 22? I'm not trying to tell them how to, what kind of music they should be liking, but if you're going to go in there, if you've got a bit of a hip-hop background, if you're into your hip-hop, it's got to be a bit of, it's got to be a bit of cash rolls, everything around me, cream. Get the money, dollar bill. You'll do it for the new. 75 million to buy the club, 20 million for spending money in the first season. Whatever reservations you might have about Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Maratha, and we should have reservations about strangers coming in and buying our club. They definitely aren't playing around. They're no messing us about. They mean business. They want to own us, and they want to make something of it. This isn't. It's so nice not to have nut jobs that are talking big, owning the club. And I don't mean, sorry, that's been a while since that happened. I'll always be grateful to most of the board that we had last year, John Bennett and these guys, Park and what have you. But it's, since 2011 really, since Craig White onwards, up until about 2015, where we got kind of saved in a way that will not be appreciated for another 20 years or so. There was a lot of chat, a lot of big talk. The sky's the limit. And zero. They're actually using our money to buy the club and some kind of leveraged takeover type stuff. Our season ticket money to buy the club and things like that. Whereas you've got these guys who are coming in and putting in serious money, and they're just talking feet on the ground, long term, move nice and steady. That's what you want. That's Rangers. That's Rangers standards, apart from anything else. But I think you'd be a bit of cash rolls, everything around me, cream, get the money, dollar bill. If I was going to do my initiation song, if I was in a situation where I was signing for Rangers, and I said, right, you're going to have to sing as a song, I would go for a bit of MJB, a bit of Mary J. Blige, no more drama, I would really go for it as well. I would get the stuff that what's the gear she was wearing? What's that called again? You get this kind of tartany looking, it's like Burberry. Get all the Burberry gear on my cuffs and what have you. Like their performance, I did it on Jules Holland's Hootenanny. They are later in Jules Holland. I would really do the Mary J. Blige, the shuffle as well, and totally go. Broken heart again, another lesson learned. Have to count on me, or else you will get burned. And the boys are saying, "That's funny, you're doing that's quite an emotional song you're doing there, And this, I'd sign for Rangers, so I'd have decent money. I would get backing singers who they would then come in and hit, no more pain, no more pain, no more pain, no drama, no more pain, no more tears in my life. No, I'd really kind of go for it to the point. I'll do that, or as always, I would do Radiohead Subterranean Homesick Alien, which is so kind of, twee and wheedly that it would scare them in a completely different way. I'd tell all my friends, but they'd never believe me, think that I'd finally lost it. Try to embarrass me. I'll dominate this club in a way that Max Aarons does by coming in and taking both the fullback positions. And a winner. He scored for the Norwegian national team, I think, in this current qualifying campaign for the 2026 World Cup. THELO AASGAARD. That's the thing. He's playing at a level there. He's playing with the big proper Viking fella they've got up front. Erling Haaland, he's playing with Norway and that, but he scored against Moldova, his first goal at international football, and it was in Chisinau. I thought that's good. And I thought, what's that? The Zimbru Stadium, which you see the telly all the time. It's a kind of like, it's like Livingston. It's the Tony Macaroni, except it's in the capital of Moldova. And that's where they play their international football. That's where they host the big games in Moldova. But that's where Nathan Patterson scored his goal for Scotland, his only goal so far for Scotland, his first international goal. And then Nathan Patterson, he was a Rangers player at the time, then he goes to Merseyside, and he ends up at Everton. I thought that was a bit of coincidence, a nice coincidence. But that's where THELO AASGAARD got his first international goal as well for Norway. He was at Anfield as a youth, then he goes to Wigan. He kind of learns his trade at Wigan Athletic. Good enough for Tav. It should be good enough for him. And he goes to Luton Town and really captures the imagination. That's where he really takes off. And in a struggling Luton team, obviously, who are plummeting, who are heading back down the leagues as fast as they were heading back up them. So that's a reservation, of course. He's in a team that's going downwards. But he was somebody who should go upwards. THELO AASGAARD, his heroes. His middle name's Gerrard, but apparently it's not after Steven Gerrard, but he's a Liverpool supporter. Sounds totally scouse. He should be. I just want to hear him saying John Arne Riise. John Arne Riise, Norwegian Champions League winner for Liverpool. Apparently, if you get the Jamie Carragher accent right, and you can say John Arne Riise in a Jamie Carragher accent, it's so scouse, that it actually turns you Mancunian. It's a kind of double negative thing. So, but he loves that team. He loved Gerrard, Steven Gerrard, and he loved Fernando Torres, which for me is the sign of a great judge of a footballer. Is THELO AASGAARD. Fernando Torres, the first thing he did after scoring the only goal of the 2008 European Championships final in Vienna against Germany was he scored against Alan McGregor, who couldn't hold on to the ball, who couldn't hold on to the shot. Right in front of me, a pre-season friendly for Liverpool against Rangers. Steven Gerrard ran the show in the midfield and we get beat 4-0. I thought that was the worst thing. That was the worst thing I'd ever seen happen to Rangers at the hands of Liverpool or anybody. That was the only time. Was that the second time? It was only the second time I'd ever seen us beaten by 4 clear goals at Ibrox. They're always Juventus on the way to winning the Champions League, so it's two different extremes that connect. Oh, one's a pre-season friendly, so let's not worry too much about it. The other one's, it's Juventus, massive, and they're on the way to winning the Champions League, so that's fit. But no, other stuff would happen thereafter. But I think that Fernando Torres in his time at Liverpool, El Nino, I saw him scoring against Benfica for Liverpool. Torres down at Anfield in the Europa League quarter-final, and I loved him. I know his style kind of went, his swagger went a bit at Chelsea. He still managed to win the Champions League, and he scored in 2 successive European Championship finals for Spain. Fernando Torres, an absolute legend of a player, whatever way you look at it. But when he was at Liverpool, it was sexy, wasn't he? He just the way he would score the goals, the swivel of the hips and all that. He was just one of the most exciting players to watch. He was kind of right up there with Marco van Basten, the way he did things. Not that good, obviously, but it's anyway. So THELO AASGAARD, it was Portsmouth, son. It was Portsmouth. He was saying in his interview with Rangers TV, THELO AASGAARD, first game I went to, it was at Wembley. It was a semi-final. My brother took me. It was Spurs against either Birmingham or Portsmouth. It must have been the 2010 FA Cup semi-final, and Portsmouth won. Spurs get beat. Portsmouth won the FA Cup in 2008, but they come back to the final 2010. I think they lost to Chelsea in the final, but they beat Spurs in the semi-final. So that's where you were there. THELO AASGAARD. We've got Max Aarons, who likes a couple of coffees. His mate used to scald his hands. I've been watching the interviews on Rangers TV because I want to know about these guys coming to my club. And he's on loan. He's another loanee. AASGAARD we've actually bought from Luton, but Max Aarons, it's the Bournemouth thing. Why is he not going to Hibs then? Why is he not going out and loan to Hibs? No, the Black Knights, Bill Foley or whatever the guy's called that owns 15 football clubs, the same as our owners own 15 sporting concerns. Why is he not going to the high Bs? Because he wants to go to a proper club, I would imagine. He's played for Valencia. I was out on loan at Valencia from Bournemouth, and he's Bournemouth are selling centre halves to Real Madrid for 50 odd million or 60 million, whatever it was. So I know we look at Bournemouth. That's the kind of club we're buying players for Peterborough, Luton, Bournemouth. That's a level. That's a proper level now. They're an established English Premier League club. It doesn't matter if we've got more Union Bears than they've got. We've got more wheelchair fans than they have got entire support in Bournemouth in their tiny wee stadium. But it's just the money they're operating on in that league. makes them massive financially compared to ourselves. So they've loaned out Max Aaron's right back. I don't know if Tav's brother, Marcus Tavernier, is getting on the phone to him and giving him the skinny of the guy who wants to take his right back berth. Norwich, he's a Chelsea supporter. That's fine. He can watch the Club World Championship final on Sunday, hoping they win that to add to the fact that they're the only club to have won all 4 of the major European club tournaments. But he's a Norwich kid. It seems like he's Norwich City through and through. He's talking about how that's where he grew up, really, as a player. He went there at 16 years old. So Matt Gill, assistant manager, and of course our head coach, or our assistant head coach, Matt Gill, the Norwich City connection. He's now playing for the CAFU of East Anglia, the CAFU of Norfolk, as they used to call Russell Martin at Carrow Road, because they absolutely adore him. The Norwich City connection is strong with this club of ours just now at Ibrox now, and that's where I think Max Aarons has decided he's going to move. He's going to take this chance to go on loan to Rangers. He's going on loan to Russell Martin and Matt Gill, I think, essentially. But I was talking about his loan spell at Valencia and playing against Real Madrid in the Bernabeu. Now, so he's had good experience, and he's definitely coming. He had a good first half last week against Bruges in that little friendly, but he looks powerful and he's totally up for it, and he's definitely confident, as a lot of these guys are getting asked on Rangers TV. How would you describe yourself in 3 words? And confident is usually one of those words for all these young players, so that's good. That's good. And Lyle Cameron, of course, I say he looks about 12 years old, but he's bringing the ladies along. He's a lovely young fella, isn't he? He's a lovely young guy, Lyle Cameron, when he gets interviewed, and we're hearing the thing about Tony Docherty said that he beat the beep test. He's so fit, and he's going to have to be, because you see him doing it. God, I'm struggling today. It's Friday. I'm talking to you on Friday in Glasgow. It's absolutely brutal. The temperatures here, it's too much. I mean, it was warmer last week in Berlin. It was up in the 30s still at like 7 o'clock at night. And there's a reason I don't go on beach holidays. Hell is it's the German. You get the Pilsners and all that, and it's Helles lager, Helles beer. Well, you think, why would I get no Camden Hells? No, don't give us that. That's just your kind of posy English beers. But Hell, that the Germans use it for it means bright and pale. It can mean both bright and pale, and it was really, really bright in Berlin last week, and really, really pale, and try to use the lager, the Pilsners, to hydrate yourself is a bad move. I'll never get old enough to work out that just doesn't work. And I was just it was the Monday. We arrived on the Friday, and then on the flight. And the Friday there was this couple the woman, she worked with my wife in the queue for the EasyJet flight out to Berlin, and her and her husband were going to see AC/DC in concert on the Monday. No, it's a week back on Monday in Berlin. They played the Olympic Stadium. AC/DC were playing the Olympic Stadium. It's the Power Up Tour. The reason I know it's a Power Up Tour is because from that conversation, then being in Berlin Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just seen more and more folk. Every part of the city we were in, we're doing the whole tourist thing, getting about different parts of the city. Potsdamer Platz, Brandenburg Gate, going out to Spandau, going out to Potsdam and all that. And there's just more and more folk with these t-shirts, the AC/DC t-shirts, all kind of middle-aged and that as well. And I remember AC/DC when I was at school. AC/DC were like the guys that were into heavy metal, into rock and all that. They had the AC/DC patches and their denim jackets, which I didn't realise at the time was German football supporters. That was the classic look of the German football supporters. Despite the fact I loved my German club football back then, I started putting it together. So, and I would see these jerseys talking about Scotland jerseys, and I'm in Berlin. Trying to feel all exotic and that, and this guy's talking about in the Scotland 78, the usual stuff you see with the Tsunami. These clowns can't remember what it was like. Argentina 78, it was bloody humiliating. It was absolutely devastating. I'm old enough to remember what it was. I was just a young boy at the time, but I remember thinking, we're going to win this World Cup, and turned out we couldn't kick with our arses. These guys are wanting, then you would hear the accents. Oh, they're German. They're really taking the piss then. 4 World Cups and all that, but no, they were wearing the Umbro, it's the Angus Young, only kind of permanent member of AC/DC. It's Angus jerseys, because the Scotland connection with AC/DC are the 3 of them born Scot as well. I think it was he born kind of Kerrymuir or something like that, Forfar, the kind of Angus area, and then Angus, who's the Glasgow, Angus Young and his brother, and I think their brother-in-law or something as well, a cousin or sort of nephew, took the place of the other young brother. Anyway, I don't really know that much about AC/DC. I was just looking this up on Wikipedia, because I was seeing everybody talking about, and they've got the Power Up tour, and then there was some of the Hell's Bells tour. There's a guy walking about with the Hell's Bells hat. Remember that? Ali became kind of more meme famous than usual when he was in the Munich Olympic Stadium, and he's that's Hell's Bells coming on AC/DC. Then he goes to the gig, because the Germans love a bit of AC/DC, and it was like, we were going to Manchester 2008 for the final, and folk were standing across the motorway, and there were Union Jacks hanging out over the balconies of the bridges and all that, and they're kind of cheering you on, waving scarves and all that. Oh, yes, go, do the business now. You're thinking, God, we've got a massive support, but it's all these folk who kind of, supported Rangers nominally. Their brother supports Rangers, their father supported Rangers or something like that, and the massive kind of, and I'm a bit like that with AC/DC, music in general. I'm a tourist. I'm a proper tourist when it comes to that stuff. I don't really know it, but I couldn't help kind of getting on, because there's all these middle-aged folk wearing the same kind of brand new jerseys that they've bought specifically for the occasion, showing their allegiance kind of thing. That's just like a European final. It was the Munich Olympic Stadium, and I went to Spandau S9. S-Bahn line 9, I think it was, goes to Spandau. It's just far west of Berlin city centre. Went out there on the Monday. The concert was on the Monday night, and they were already out there at the Tabacs or whatever, getting their beer on. They're all getting everybody can drink in the street and all that in Germany. It's just so chilled out. I love it. It's a far superior country. It isn't. But they were all drinking and getting their beer on their AC/DC tours, and it's that thing. You think, this is great. They're going to the Berlin Olympic Stadium. It's like a European final. It's like a bunch of a massive support going to European final, Berlin Olympic Stadium. That's where your guy on Sunday night. Luis Enrique, the PSG manager, he won the Champions League there in Munich, didn't he? Against an Italian side, and then he's Spanish. And 10 years before that, he won the Champions League with Barcelona against an Italian side, with Juventus that time. So that's quite Luis Enrique. He's Olympic Stadium. That was the Olympic Stadium the night in 2015 that he won the Champions League that night. So the Olympic Stadium in Berlin has hosted, as well as the football Olympics final. It's had the final of the Champions League, the final of the World Cup, the final of the Euros, and also the second leg, the final of the 1986 UEFA Cup, when Cologne moved their second leg against Real Madrid to the Berlin Olympic Stadium. I've never quite found out why. I've always assumed it was crowd trouble at some point. Bob Valentine, I think, was the referee. Was it George McCluskey? It's a Scottish referee anyway. Real Madrid nearly succumbed to another German comeback. But so the Berlin, just that played up with the whole kind of European final vibe. And so I was seeing AC/DC, and you might get on it. I suddenly had that feeling these folk have that just want to kind of, I'm not going to go to the game, so to speak. I wasn't going to the concert, but I wanted to show my kind of allegiance. So I would see the guys dotting about outside, drinking, having their beers, getting ready for the concert that night, because it's on the same line. It's on S9. It's on the same line as Spandau. So they're all going to be heading back to go to the Olympic Stadium, and I was just got up and I did, all right, guys, 666, the number of the beast, AC/DC. And they weren't really kind of saying hello or anything like that. And the Germans have got good English as well. And I was like, run to the hills, guys, run to the hills, like a bat out of hell, AC/DC, that kind of thing. And they just weren't reacting to me at all. I don't think they could tell that I wasn't really a fan, maybe because I didn't have a T-shirt on or something like that. But I was certainly in the right age. Ace of Spades, guys, AC/DC. And it was like they didn't know the reaction, or lack of reaction I was getting. It was like they didn't know the actual songs, the famous songs of their own favourite group. And I felt I was a bit like that. I suppose I got a bit of my own treatment there when I went to the following Sunday. I was back at Ibrox and I was watching Rangers against Club Brugge, and I was kind of failing to take on board everything that was really happening. I was missing the goals getting scored against us. I nearly missed one of the goals. The goal that Diamandi scored for us in the second half, because I was too busy chatting to my mate, and I'd forgot about IGA being there. John Souttar's in the stand and things like that. I've got Cifuentes is coming back. To what's happened at Rabbi Matondo. I didn't give him a second thought. He's got a knee injury. So is he back with us, or I didn't see him at St George's Park? He's not going to be back until August, and yet we're trying, just like Rabbi Matondo, to get injured while he's supposed to be getting sold. It's absolute shame for the fella. So there's all these things to take on board. There's so much happening at Rangers just now. And I was going on solipsistically last week about my European finals thing. The European final, I think it's 79 of the 106 clubs to have played in one of the 4 European club finals. That's me. The Club Brugge was number 79. I was going on and on about it. And you see that pennant behind me? That's the pennant I bought outside Ibrox before the Scott Nisbet game against Bruges in 92, 93, while I was getting soaked and looking for a spare ticket that I couldn't get. So I had to go home with a pennant while you were all in Ibrox having the best night of your life. So it hurts. It hurts that my Belgian and I know it didn't make up for that last week. That's me finally getting to see Club Bruges, who've played in 2 different European finals in the 70s. So I got them off the list. So I was talking about that because it meant a lot to me. Because you can't just be fixated on Europe and European achievement, and it's been forgotten. I know this got mentioned by Johnny McFarlane on Rangers Review yesterday, and it bugs me. This is another reason I've got to do the podcast, because I'm thinking about stuff and I think, oh, nobody wants to know about that. I don't bother doing a pod, and I watch Rangers Review and Johnny McFarlane mentions it. He did me again another one. I was genuinely, how can I prove to you that I was thinking about this before he said it? But anyway, you can't just, it was when we were dominating, domestically, the way we all seem to be desperate to do just now. That's all we're interested in. Doesn't matter, we got to the final in Seville, greatest night of our life, semi-final, but somehow, because I don't know, if we'd won that, if we'd just one penalty kick away or 2, really, because we didn't want Aaron Ramsey to miss his and we wanted to score the winning penalty, but that would have changed the landscape of Scottish football forever. We'd have won 2 different, the first Scottish club to win 2 different European competitions, to have won 2 European competitions at all. It would just have changed your entire life. But anyway, apparently we didn't care. Apparently we're all about domestic football, and I've been there. The reason I'm so kind of cynical about that attitude is I've been there when we were dominating domestically, and all anybody was talking about was, well, we're not doing it in Europe. We're not doing it in Europe. It's like we're taking the lead from the bitchiness of the Celtic support and taking them at face value, taking it seriously. Because Celtic supporters are always going to tell you what you've not done. They're never going to quit and go, by the way, you are absolutely dominating us domestically. We're crap in Europe. You're crap in Europe. That's fine. Just write that off. That's a write-off. So it's what else about, well, you're dominating domestically. We can't even win a Scottish Cup. So that's never going to happen. You're cheating anyway. It's a Masonic. And before the tax stuff and all that, nobody cared. But it was Celtic fans would boast about how they were doing the tax man for their crowds. And then they would. Suddenly tax became a thing when it was us that it was happening to, and it's not, it was Masonic conspiracy before the tax thing. They don't really believe in any of the stuff they're saying. It's just they hate Rangers, just about you hate Celtic. We don't really hate, do we? We don't really hate. But that's so don't really worry. I felt as if we were kind of selling ourselves short with our achievements in the 90s at that point, and now I feel we're selling our European achievements short just because we're doing them. It's like until we can win, the quadruple, which Celtic, in fairness, have done. 66, 67, you might have heard about it. It's almost like until we can do that and do it every season, we're never going to be happy. And you should always be ambitious as a support, but sometimes we get to the point where we slag ourselves so much, we hold ourselves back. So I don't think you can really have the focus on Europe that I've had my entire life, because I was born a point where it meant I can't remember us winning the Cup Winners' Cup. I was nearly 3 years old when we won the Cup Winners' Cup, and my memories don't start until a few years later. So I've grown up with this whole thing of us having won a European trophy, but I don't remember it. And the European trophy we won was totally overshadowed by the one Celtic won, and they were biggest rivals. So I've grown up obsessed with European finals for a reason that you don't have to be Sigmund Freud to work out. And I've got to the point where I thought, well, if Rangers can't dominate European football, I'll dominate European football by seeing every club who has won, who's reached a European final. I don't want to do it in a mad Anorak way. I have done specific trips. I did a trip to Dusseldorf, for example, to see 1979 European Cup runners-up for Junior Dusseldorf against 1981 European Cup runners-up Karl Zeiss Jena in the third tier of German football in the Drei Bundesliga. It was a regional liga back then. I have done that kind of trip specifically to get off to tick off the list 2 teams that have reached a European final. But mostly I wanted to come to myself. It's 40 odd years in the making, this list, me working through this list. I went to my first European game 40 years ago. Mostly I wanted to come to me naturally at Ibrox. I want to see these teams in friendlies and European ties at Ibrox. You can't just have this fixation with European football and there'll be no kind of ancillary, collateral side effects to it. And mine is just an obsession with European finalists. It's a way of also proving that your whole life you've done the sport, you've covered the sport. That's me. I spent my whole life being a big mouth about football, going to a lot of football matches. It's not made me any kind of expert in the game, as you no doubt know if you've listened to my ramblings. But at least I can say I've seen every club that's been in a European final. Then I've done football. That's like I've been out of the league grounds in Scotland, that kind of thing. I've done all that kind of stuff. So it's just a way of covering the sport, just to prove that you really do love it and you do know it in a certain kind of way. But Belgium's a nightmare. Belgium's an absolute nightmare. There's 5 Belgian clubs that have reached Europe. I've only got 27 left to see. Right, that's still quite a lot. And like there's 4 for Germany that I've still not seen. I've got 3 for Hungary, still to see. France, I've got 3 there as well. So I'm getting to the stage I might just, because I'm going to have a heart attack if the temperature keeps up with this, especially. I'm going to have a heart attack, fatal heart attack, any second. Really, the state of my general health. I'm going to get this done quickly. I can't wait for them all to come to Ibrox, the remaining European finalists. But Belgium's a particular nightmare. Now, that's only my second Belgian club, but 5 clubs they've had that reached a European final. Belgium. Anderlecht, like Bruges last week, I only saw in a friendly. It was John Bomber Brown's testimonial. It was years ago. I saw Anderlecht, who played in 4 Cup Winners' Cup finals and 3 UEFA Cup, First Cup finals. That was and Mervyn Day, our head of scouting, he conceded 4 goals. As goalkeeper for West Ham in the 1976 Cup Winners' Cup final, the first one that Anderlecht won, the first European trophy, and it was in Brussels. It was at the Heysel Stadium. But I've still got KV Mechelen, Standard Liège, and Royal Antwerp to see. And if they've all reached European finals, Belgian clubs. And the KV Mechelen, they've been relegated and real financial problems and that as well. So they're up and down the leagues. It makes sense that they've never really, since they won the Cup Winners' Cup in 1988, they've not really drawn Rangers. They haven't drawn Rangers in a European tie. But like I saw Union Saint-Gilloise, I've seen them twice in really intense European ties, like historic European ties. It was the first time Rangers ever recovered from a 2-goal deficit in the first leg of a European tie, a home and away European tie, was against Union Saint-Gilloise that night at Ibrox. We beat them 3-0, Malik Tillman, the big header and all that. That was amazing. Under Gio, Champions League third round qualifier as well. And then last season, saw them again last season, that's twice in the space of 4 years, and we're beating them 2-1, quite a tight game. For the first ever extended 36-team group in the Europa League, and we finished in the top 8 to qualify automatically for the round of 16. A massively historic night. Both times they played, but Union Saint-Gilloise have never played in a European final. They might soon under Tony Bloom's influence, but they've never played in a European final. So it does actually mean a massive. But Standard Liège and Royal Antwerp, just to add insult to injury, you know what I'm going to say. We had the 2 of them in successive rounds in one season in Europe. We had them in the group stage of the Europa League in 2020-2021, the 55 season. And then we had, and it was beat them home and away. Fantastic games against some really memorable games. That's Kamar Roof scoring for the halfway line. Former Anderlecht player Kamar Roof scoring for the halfway line in the Maurice Dufresne Stadium in Liège, and that was a phenomenal night. But then we've got them at Ibrox, and then the next round, when we go into the round of 32, we get Royal Antwerp. Was it 4-3 we beat them in the Boswell over there, and then was it 5-2, 5-3 at Ibrox, 5-2 I think it was at Ibrox. Absolutely phenomenal matches. COVID season, lockdown, Ibrox is shut. They're playing to empty stadiums. There was fans allowed in the game in Liège, but so we'd get these 2 teams that I want to get after Belgium when I'm not allowed to get into Ibrox. It's like rubbing it in my face, taking it too personal. Belgian national team, seen it 3 times at Hampden. 3 times I've seen the Belgian national team at Hampden. I know maybe you don't like Scotland, whatever, but the first time Scotland are 2-0 up, Belgium equalised in the last minute, last kick of the ball, 2 each. The other 2 times they put 4 past us. Twice within the space of a year. It's really good. I went to Belgium. All right, I mean, I'm talking about the Club Bruges game in 92-93. I'm outside the stadium trying to get a ticket. And it turns into one of the most memorable Champions League games in Rangers history. The first time we won a home game in the Champions League proper. And I'm not there. The Scott Nisbet game, the bounce and the tears, and I'm not at that game. And I'm getting wet anyway. I'm getting all the bad stuff about it, and I'm getting that pennant up there. But I wasn't at it. And I'll go to Belgium on holiday in about 2006, was it? It was years ago, decades ago anyway. And it's the weirdest holiday of my entire life. We had a week in Brussels in the hotel. There was no windows. No, it was you opened the curtains, and there was windows, but it was looking inside the hotel, the atrium thing. You're looking down onto folk having their breakfast. I don't want that. I want fresh air. I want to be able to crack a window open and see a bit of Brussels outside. It was like living in an office or something. It was expensive as well. This was our summer holiday. We were going for it. Went to a bar. I remember going to a bar in Brussels and sitting there 20 minutes or so. It was in the afternoon. It wasn't wrecked. Like, we weren't out of order. I was just sitting there wanting to get served, wanting to get a drink. I'm on holiday and just getting blanked. It was waiter services. I'm like, hey, whoa, garçon, all that. Oh, well, mate. Just blanking us, completely blanking us. Had to go somewhere else to drink. And then you go to I went to Anderlecht Stadium, the constant Van den Stock over it, and it was shut because it's the summertime, wasn't it? It was the summertime. It was shut. Couldn't even get inside. I usually get inside a stadium. Went out to the Heysel Stadium, and it was shut as well. Of course it was. But the Atomium, you see the Atomium, Real Madrid against Milan, the 1958 European Cup final, goes to extra time and all that, and there's no roofs on the old Heysel Stadium, and in the background is the Atomium, classic pictures, Gento and Schiaffino and that kind of thing on the parking bit behind them. There's the Atomium looming over this. In 1974, there's so many European finals, as we know, tragically. At the Heysel Stadium, 74, the only European Cup final to be replayed, Atletico Madrid against Bayern Munich, and great colour footage this time, colour shots, and then there's these camera angles, the camera pans back, and you get all the colour, all the red and white right around the stadium. In the background, the Atomium's hanging, this massive structure, this fantastic tourist attraction, huge Edinburgh Castle sized structure that is just a massive steel, silvery looking model of an atom. An atom just blown. It's dedicated, it's a science-based structure. It's phenomenal. Really great. So I thought, well, I'm going to go and see that. We can't get into the Heysel Stadium. We'll just go to that. And you get a lift up the middle of the atom to the top, and there's these kind of student, passive-aggressive type photographers, most of them women, who are doing that whole thing. You get a lot of tourist attractions. Oh, it's you want to get your photograph taken with the stuffed bull in Valencia, or whatever. You want to get photograph taken in the gondola, and Jeff Bezos, he makes his workers pee in bottles while they're working because he can't get a toilet break. But that the thing they make you take a photo, they'll get it at the end, and it's like €50, a total rip-off. But if you say no to them, they really. And that's the first time I really encountered this. Try to get into the lift in the middle of the building. It takes you up to the top of the Atomium, and there was a lassie there with the camera. She'd be about 20 years old. And there's Tony the Tiger. There was somebody with her dressed head to toe as a tiger. And it's Tony the Atomium Tiger, I'm assuming. Really, really bad mascot. But I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman because they're fully dressed and basically standing in front of my wife and no letting folk. It was holding everybody back to try and go in the lift. Wouldn't let the lift door shut. To try, do you want your photograph taken? Do you want your photograph taken? Just basically kind of extorting you. And like, no, we're fine. We just want the lift door to shut and we'll go upstairs. My wife's just kind of laughing and all that. Okay, she's not aggressive. She's not. And I'm like, you might just let my wife get in the lift. And I'm suddenly thinking, this is getting to the stage. If it's a bloke harassing my wife, I should punch that guy. I'm actually letting myself do no punching this tiger. But I don't know if it is a bloke. And if it's a woman inside in a deck, a punch. Well, if I did deck it, I would know it was. Well, she'd probably kick my ass anyway. But I'm then going to have hitting a woman on my CV. Don't want that. I mean, I never mind the fact. It's not a nice thing. You shouldn't do it anyway. But mostly, I just worry about myself. I can't have that in my CV. I don't want folk knowing how much of a bastard I am. And I was like, that's terrible. It was a really terrible situation. Eventually, the lift went and all that, but I was totally raging. And we get after it, but once we'd done the tour and that, we get back after all abusing us for not getting the photo. Yeah, wanks, fuck off and all that. It was just. Brussels, Belgium, it absolutely hates me, so that was a weird thing. But I had to get Club Bruges off my list. And I did that, and that's why I had to tell you about it, because we're playing Panathinaikos 1971 European Cup runners-up. We're playing them the third time we're going to meet them in Europe, and they are next up, and I want Europe. I can't kid myself on. We seem to have this idea that we need to stop doing so well in Europe in order to start doing well domestically. No, just keep doing it in Europe. It's far bigger. People all over Europe, you say to them, who's winning the league in Scotland? They'll go, the Old Firm. But if you've played them in Europe, if you're going to Fenerbahce, if you're going to Athletic Bilbao, if you're going to Old Trafford, they're going to remember you. There's a chance they'll remember you. They'll know who Rangers are, so keep doing it in Europe. The 5 main points here, I'll get back onto what these signings, this slew of signings. Apart from it, we've also got rumours, signings that might have happened. This is the thing, by the time I've finished this podcast, even if it is a marathon podcast, the chances are we've signed JD Gassama. There'll definitely be other announcements by the time this pod gets posted by my fat self. Jordan Henderson leaving Ajax. Ajax, captain of Ajax, and he's finished a year early. I know didn't go on too well there, but 35-year-old, but he's probably going to go to Sunderland, isn't he? He's probably going to go to Sunderland for their stint, first season back in the top flight. But I don't know if maybe there's a chance. You can believe anything these days. But JD Gassama, who's this Wunderkind, Mauritanian, born in Mauritania, comes through the PSG school. I think he's played at Eupen in Belgium, and last 2 seasons at Sheffield Wednesday. This is what it is. It's all Championship to League One. Championship kind of mid-table to struggling League One teams that we're getting our players from these days, which is, view that whatever way you want. But this fella, apparently, and I've seen the montage, was it Rangers Spurs on Rangers Spurs Twitter account, put out a little montage of some of his skillful moments for Sheffield Wednesday. He's rapid, highly skillful, very exciting looking, but of course you can imagine a Hamza Hawd-Up montage. It would blow your socks off. But he looks fantastic. Apparently he can play left wing, he can play right wing. He's another one of these guys who could play through the middle as well. There was a Sheffield Wednesday kind of fan journalist on the Rangers Review talking to Derek and just singing the guy's praises. So that he's a fella who's apparently at St George's Park in Burton right now, Burton upon Trent. He's met the team. He said goodbye to everybody at Sheffield Wednesday. I think all the personal stuff's been agreed. But Sheffield Wednesday going through a terrible time just now with their owner. He's trying to sell the club, and I think Sheffield Wednesday fans are saying they might not let him go, because if we get new owners in, they'll want to keep a hold of him. So I don't think Sheffield Wednesday have signed off on the deal just yet. That seems to be the only thing holding it back. But JD Gassama, we're looking for a goalkeeper as well, and Carol Rushworth, 24 years old, just, again, it's one of these ones, Brighton Hove Albion, Tony Bloom is going to be on loan if we get him at all, but the idea, the general rumour is that Russell Martin is not impressed with Jack Butland, neither am I, and Liam Kelly maybe not good enough from in the old sweeper keeper thing. He's going to want to play high, he's going to want his centre half to play high, and he's going to want his goalkeeper to come out and do a bit of the old sweeper keeping, and I don't think either of our first choice goalkeepers are capable of that at the moment, so he's probably going to get a goalkeeper in. Abu Kamara, who's kind of plays, again, one of these guys, and it seems to be they've got various disciplines, which you want from players these days. They can play left wing, right wing, or through the middle. I think he's played left back as well. Has Abu Kamara of Hull City, who was loaned out to Portsmouth and helped him win League One, I think it was. But he's at Hull City, who again are struggling in the Championship. Again, bit of a fire sale on there because you're struggling financially. Have at it, Rangers. Nobody. Hull City, Alan McGregor ended up there, didn't he? Well, he went via Besiktas, but plenty of folk were happy to pick up our players at cheap price, at cheap rates. Steve Davis, Stephen Naismith back in 2012, so I've got no compunction whatsoever about Rangers getting in there and raiding on the cheap, show no mercy, getting these players. But Abu Kamara is another fellow who's rumoured to be coming to us, and that's the beautiful thing, is a lot of the rumours, you don't even get to the rumour stage, they just arrive. It's now becoming like, I'm nostalgic for the days. I used to hate the rumour stuff. I hated the transfer window. I couldn't be bothered with this guy could arrive. I saw this guy at Glasgow Airport. Oh, my brother's mother's dog says that this fella. I don't really like to indulge in that, but some of these signings have been so rapid. They've just turned up, they've got the scarf, they've got the top on, they've signed the contract before you even heard who they are. That I'm getting quite nostalgic now for, will he, won't he? So the 5 main points I think here is we're active. We're so active. Number one, we're so active in this transfer market. It's no bullshit. It hasn't been bullshit from the new owners. It's a real feather in the cap for the consortium. The players are piling into the club. They're piling into the club far faster than we're even able to get rid of the ones we already had. It's all been done very professionally, very quickly. There's no sagas. You can see, like, Jamie Vardy's a persistent rumour. Connor Cody's a persistent rumour. But there's so much happening that you're not worried about that. You're not worried if this kind of stuff doesn't happen, or if you're even interested in these guys arriving at Rangers at all. Even Igaman, Dessers, what's going to happen with them? That the wee mini sagas that are there are subsumed in a kind of general sense of upward momentum. It does actually feel like a kind of blueprint established by a fully integrated board and coaching staff being forensically implemented. No, it's no slapdash. It's not rushed. It's strategic and it's fast. And it's exactly what we need after the summer we went through, like the past few summers. We've had lots of players coming and going each summer at Rangers over the past few years, but this just seems to be happening so quickly and so precisely. It's really quite encouraging. It just feels as if the club has been really well run again. Second point, we will get rid of players. You know, THELO AASGAARD and the lad from Sheffield Wednesday, um, Gassama, if he arrives, they look exciting, but there'll be no more than replacements, for example, for Václav Černý and for Hamza Hawd-Up, who we're all sure is going to leave. It seems, is it LYALL were in there, 15 to 20 million was the rumour. It looks like negotiations have been opened or put a for sale sign over Hamza Hawd-Up. So you're going to come a point where you realise you're really just replacing what's going out the door. You know, we're losing guys like, I know Leon Balogun and Yanis Hadji. It's not a big deal. We've always felt they were going to leave and what have you, but they need replaced. We need the personnel in there. So a lot of the players that are coming in are doing no more than replacing what we have. But it's not as overwhelming as I'm trying to make it out, of course. But this is after a month of having my TiVo getting constantly updated with Champions League highlights of the group stages and all that, and the knockout rounds for last season's Champions League. Every day I'm like my telly and I'm like, oh, why have I got 15 games for the knockout stages of last season's Champions League? I've watched them already. I've seen all the highlights and that kind of stuff. So I have to delete it on. I nearly did the same thing the other day. Was it Wednesday morning? And, oh no, this is it was yesterday morning. This isn't a repeat of last season. This is, you know, on the green grassy banks of the Tolka at Shelburne, our old friend Shelburne against Linfield. This is this season's Champions League. The qualifiers have started. 1-0 to Shelburne. You know, David Healy's guys keeping it quite tight for the return at Windsor Park. That'll be quite a night. But Shelburne, apart from anything else, reminding us that it doesn't matter the quality of manager, the quality of head coach, the quality of signings you're getting in. If you've got a whole number of new signings, if there's a big turnover, it takes a while for them to bed in. But it's happening. We are here. The European campaign has started, so we need to be swift. We need to be getting all these players in. Number 3, I have no idea what Celtic are doing in the transfer market right now. That's not true. I can't help seeing wee things flashing up on my phone. The fella Kuhn, is it Nicholas Kuhn? I think they're talking about selling him for a massive profit. I know they're a Japanese guy coming in as well, but I've just seen it in passing, and this is what happens. This world of echo chambers, social media. I know it. Why do you watch Fat X podcast? He just talks about himself and his holidays all the time. It's because you want to. We're so kind of consumed. It's a pressure, isn't it? I watch Rangers Review. All days watch Rangers Review. That's where I get my Rangers news from. But I'm not watching the Celtic. It's not the old days where you'd have to read the Daily Record, the Herald, Evening Times or whatever, and you're watching STV, BBC, the little reports on the news, the sports reports that are aimed at everybody. Well, they're aimed at the old firm and anybody else who can get a mention. And you watch sports scene highlights. It's so much live football on. You've only got a chance to watch Rangers on telly. Watch Rangers in the flesh as well. I've not got a chance to. The amount of money I'm spending, time I'm spending watching Rangers, and then trying to catch up on other Rangers news. All these podcasts are offering you membership stuff, special membership stuff coming in here, pay you extra money and get. I've not got time. By the time I've listened to all the free stuff that's out there, Heart and Hand, Rangers Review, Jersnet, whatever, the Rabble, This Is Ibrox, all the stuff that's out there, I don't actually have a chance to listen to anything about other clubs in Scotland. Any more stuff about my own club, never mind anything about other clubs in Scotland. The danger with that is we can get ahead of ourselves. Other clubs are certainly very interested in everything that's going on at Rangers. Fans of other clubs seem to be obsessed with the financial goings on at Rangers. I'm struggling to be interested in that. But I really just want to consume myself in a kind of blue sea of Ibrox news. And the danger with that is I don't know how good Hearts are rebuilding under Tony Bloom. He's won the league with Union St Gilloise in Belgium for the first time in 90 years. They won the league. He made Brighton and Hove Albion probably the best non-Champions League team in Europe. Didn't win a European trophy, so maybe I'm talking rubbish, but they're probably just focusing on the Premier League. at the time, but when he gets involved in a club, it tends to work out really well, and he's getting heavily involved at Hearts. They've got Derek McInnes in already, so we know the Jambos are going to be a threat. I know enough about what's going on for that. Aberdeen did win the Scottish Cup. That's the only message we need. Aberdeen, we're laughing at Celtic no winning the treble, but it means Aberdeen are winning the Scottish Cup. They're winning trophies again. Hibs, we know that they're breaking records last season. Breaking their own records anyway, doing really well. We drew both our games at Easter Road, didn't win either of them, but they beat us at Ibrox as well as us beating them at Ibrox. But it was eeksy peeksy between us and Hibs over the course of the season last season, and they'll be getting stronger over this season. It's dangerous for me to be focusing completely around it, but this is why you're watching the Fat Egg podcast, isn't it? It should be anyway. You've got the Rangers news. You're getting that for the Rangers review and what have you, but I have this dream, this nightmare sometimes that Rangers Review ask me on, you've written some stuff for when Saturday comes, and you seem to, we need guys who are actual Rangers supporters to come on. I know the boys at Rangers Review are Rangers supporters, they're definitely Rangers sympathetic, first and foremost journalists, aren't they? But they get Stevie Clifford on, who's a proper Rangers supporter, and maybe, Stevie goes on to work for Sky or something like that, and it's just they've got a slot, they're trying to test out who could come on and put in, get me in. It's like, Alex, so what do you think about the events at the weekend against Club Bruges? And I'm like, well, it reminded me of On Vogue at Glastonbury, and Derek's like, oh, you're a character, that's what we want a kind of colour commentator, we want to prove that you're not an actual journalist, so it makes us look more like a fan, a fan podcast, fan media, but that's fine, that was funny. Now can you give us an actual opinion or a bit of analysis or even a transfer rumour? Well, no, I just want to talk about On Vogue. I know more about them and the albums they brought out in 89 to 91 than I know about what's happening just now in the transfer. Right, and he kind of carries me to the end of the show, and then half air, Johnny McFarlane gets a hold of me, and he's just like, fucking waste of time, by the way, and just leathers me. That's it, a nightmare I keep. It's like the dog ate my homework type. You're on the bus naked and all that, and then there's something you've got to do, but you can never quite get it done. It's that kind of nightmare I keep having. I think it's because I listen to Rangers Review so much, but you're trapped in this world of you don't want to miss out on anything. You don't want to miss out on any news at all. So you have to, because what if you turned up at Ibrox on a match day? It's no other fans you're worried about. It's no other teams you're worried about. It's about being in the know amongst your own supporters, your own people. And what if you were the only guy who didn't know that Josh Gentles farted? Josh Gentles, he farted on Rangers TV at one of the training sessions at Auchenhowie. Did you know hear that? And everybody's laughing at you because you're the guy who didn't know that Josh Gentles farted live. I mean, I don't think he did. I don't know why he got sued by it, but Josh Gentles would be getting off. He'd be off the subs bench and coming up into the stand and going, "You don't even know that I farted." You're a crap Rangers fan. You're a crap Rangers fan. You want to cover everything because there's so much stuff happening. Everybody's reporting on something. You want to know the rumours. You want to know the reasons we're hating Celtic. You want to know the reasons that Union Bears won his singing last Sunday and stuff like that. I'm just taking it back to the old school, aren't I? Because I'm so old. I'm like Winston Smith style. I remember the 90s. I lived so vigorously in the 90s. That was my period. That was my time. My Volga were periods. And for me, it was all my music references, all my film references, and all my football references. It's all kind of late 80s up to the start of the 2000s, but it's just mostly round about the 1990s, in my 20s and approaching 30. And that's why I'm talking about, Heat, Michael Mann, 1995, that came out, Heat, a great film, and all the different, Sense and Sensibility, Ang Lee, Emma Thompson, and that bit. That's why you want to talk to me, and you get so consumed in finding out everything about your own club that you hear stuff about other clubs, but the chances are we're living in a world where we think success will be we start winning back-to-back trebles. And Johnny McFarlane mentioned this yesterday on Rangers Review, and I had been thinking of this before he said it, honestly. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. Hearts, Aberdeen, Hibs, they're going to start winning trophies. What will happen now is Celtic will have to share the trophies with everybody else, but it's not going to be the scorched Rangers scorching the earth of Scottish football in the same way Celtic did. The last because we were in the lower leagues. Celtic will react. They're probably out just now buying 4 centre halves for Barnsley and 2 sitting midfielders for Plymouth Argyle because they see the guys that we're getting in. If the 2016 Scottish Cup semi-final is in to go by, when Mark Warburton proved that he would own Ronnie Delia, it would certainly make a go of it winning the league, and Celtic decide, right, we're going to spend some of that money we've been saving Rangers being in the lower leagues, we'll get that back to and Brendan Rodgers, and that was four straight trebles when we get into the top flight. It wasn't 4 straight trebles in the 4 seasons we were out of the top flight for Celtic. It's reaction, so they will be reacting to what we're doing, and they could be reacting. For all I know, they could be reacting really well. But even if they react kind of poorly, you're going to have to start using the flat track bully excuse, because Celtic fans, when we start winning league titles or trophies again, you know that they will slag you. And that's part and part of football for me. That's part and parcel of football for me. I think a lot of Rangers fans take it really. That's what sets the agenda for what they want us to win. And it's wrong. It's just the wrong way to do it. So we'll win a league title, and Celtic fans will immediately be saying, we didn't win the treble. You couldn't win the treble though, could you? So, and I don't think we're going to be winning back-to-back trebles anytime soon. Because Hearts and Hibs and Aberdeen are ready to go again. I mean, St Mirren, as I say, Stephen Robertson just needs to sign a couple of players and they'll be winning the bloody Champions League the way he had them going last season. But it's like when Celtic won their first 9 in a row under Jock Stein. They only managed 2 trebles through the course of that. Now, one of them included the European Cup, and I made it a quadruple, so it was very impressive. But we were reaching European finals at that point in time as well. It's all kind of equivalent, but he only won 2 trebles, 67 and 69. We'd already won 2 trebles, 49 and 64. So that was kind of they were equal in our record. Jot Wallace, who wasn't a very good manager when it came to Europe, he eventually wins the title for Rangers. We stopped them getting to the 10. We win the title in 1975. Then in 76 and 78, we win 2 trebles. So that was a kind of bang, straight back at you. We've won twice as many trebles as you again. Straight back at you. Kind of instant response. I don't think you're going to see that this time. It wasn't. We weren't winning the league 9 years in the row or anything like that. That was started the following decade. We got there eventually, but I don't think I'll probably be lucky in my lifetime if I see Rangers doing back-to-back trebles at all. You know what Celtic fans are like. For so many years, it was a Masonic conspiracy. And then it was horrible that we were corporate. Remember during the David Murray years, you're just corporate monsters. We're a really passionate club. We're a proper club. And then it was, you're dead. You don't exist anymore. And then it was, can you see the Rangers coming? And then we did come in 155, and it's like we did it in empty stadiums. Empty stadiums doesn't count despite the fact they'd won. And then it was a fake over. And I think from now on, it's the slagging is going to be, but you didn't win back-to-back trebles. You just won the league and you won the Scottish Cup, and then the following season you won the league and the League Cup. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. You're going to have to live with that, I think. It's going to be a while before we can dominate Scottish football the way they have in the unique circumstances of the last few years. Point number 4, if you haven't lost about to live already, the signings are a good mix of loans, permanent, young guys, old guys, prospects for moving on at a massive profit. I think that's the idea with THELO AASGAARD. He comes, he plays at Rangers, hopefully gets a wee run in Europe as well, gets some European group stage football, and properly advertises himself right the way across. This is a teammate of Erling Haaland's here, and he's cutting it up in Europe and in the Scottish top flight. Let's have him for 25-30 million pounds. That's the kind of idea there. It's all guys who've been through the English kind of system. This is the new players that we're bringing in, I'm talking about. They've all been through the English system, usually lower leagues, as I say. Even the fellow we're getting from Wolverhampton Wanderers, he's only 6 months there, but again, he's playing English Premier League or English reserve football. This is the underwhelming, should I say, kind of signings that were promised by Leeds United fans, by everything Marath and 49ers Enterprises has done at Leeds United to great effect, and Leeds United fans talking to us on various podcasts over the last few months about Marath, about 49ers Enterprises, saying what they do is, it's wholesale, the changes are wholesale and ruthless, but they're kind of underwhelming as well. But just stick with it and you get there. It all works out in the end. So that, Peterborough, Luton Town, even Bournemouth will always be a really kind of low end, low maintenance, kind of unglamorous club as far as I'm concerned, despite the evidence in front of me of how rich they are right now. It's kind of underwhelming. So that's really in keeping with the successful model of, and by the way, it was great to see that Leeds United have decided to put in plans, and the road to having a shithole stadium is paved with plans to redevelop. A lot of these redevelopment plans, you see the images of what it's going to look like, and I would say over 75% of them never come to pass. But Parag Marath moved the San Francisco 49ers into a new stadium. He means what he says when it comes to stadium redevelopment. Leeds are looking at increasing their capacity by 15,000 up to about 53,000. Ibrox is already over 50,000. But that's 2 or 3 years into his time, into the third season really of his time at Elland Road as chairman of Leeds. Parag Marath, David Murray, what was it, December 88, he bought Rangers from Lawrence Marlborough, and by 1991 the club deck was going up. He's building an extra tier, he's filling in the corners, he's turning all the seats from multicoloured to all blue. They were lowering the pitch as well to get another few rows of seats in there. So that's a bit right. Hopefully we're on the same route. Hopefully nothing too wild happens with the economies that makes these guys withdraw their money anytime soon, and we can get that proper legacy improvement in there, which is expanding the capacity at Ibrox. Get it up to 75,000. 75,000 seems like a proper number as far as I'm concerned. 64, okay, 64 would be good. You get it sounds like 1964, the great treble-winning side of 64, classic Rangers side, but I would like to get us up to 75,000, and that way, even when they leave, we have got the capacity to get more folk in the door to spend their money on Rangers and just to give us a legacy advantage. But that was good to see. But I might be a bit thunderstruck by everything that's happened, a bit thunderstruck by these signings coming in just now. It's struggling to underwhelm me when there's so many new signings coming in at the same time. But I think it's, when you look at Mike Williams, who's the assistant first team coach, he just come in. Good playing career, playing for Newcastle, what have you, but he won the Northern Premier League with Gateshead. And I think he won the conference as well. He certainly got him promoted for the conference. No, he must have. He got them. Gateshead have never been back in the league setup. Have the Gateshead since the days of Hughie Gallagher. So, but he done well with them in the conference, and that gets my move to. Was it MK Dons? I think, and don't know what happened there. But he ended up at Carlisle, and he had Carlisle heading back for they're there now, but he had them heading for the conference from the league when he left them a season ago. So it's that kind of level of signing we're getting everywhere. It's kind of underwhelming. On his own, you would think, why are we getting a guy who was a crap manager at MK Dons? This is what we're doing, and it seems this is the underwhelming nature, the underwhelming MO, the modus operandi of Parag Marath. 49ers Enterprises seems to be individually not very exciting. Russell Martin himself is probably the biggest symbol of that, the biggest example of this underwhelming thing. None of us were really that excited about Russell Martin. He was our last choice for most of us as head coach, but getting slowly excited about the fella. So that model seems to be being realised just now at Rangers. And five, first and last but not least, we need more signings. We've already talked about the goalkeeper. You need a goalkeeper. Did you see Jack Butland walking down the corridor? Everybody's back slapping at St George's Park. We're all kind of, hey, everybody's getting on great now. It's Rangers. We're all meeting up, and it's all so loving. I know there's a lot of players who are, kind of, they know each other. Or guys are reuniting and that. They're playing it, but it's the opposite of Ian Durant welcoming Ray Wilkins to Ibrox by walking behind them down Edmiston Drive and just shouting, "Oh, don't tell us we're signing baldy old bastards like you know." That's absolutely murder. And Ray Wilkinson, when I heard that, I knew I'm going to go all right. I'm going to go on all right here. This is my kind of dressing room I'm walking into. Or guys are shitting in your socks. Guys are just dumping one, curling one into the socks. In fairness, Ian McCall did the same, but there was no signs, was there? There was no signs with Gaza that he had emotional problems. I didn't talk to you about. We're going to need more signings. We're going to need another striker at least. Dessers, I think if he he scores against Panathinaikos, that'll be it. I mean, he scored against Fenerbahce. It's across the Bosphorus or whatever. But he scored. It's Asia Minor, kind of running about the Bosphorus, that kind of area. He's scoring at Fenerbahce. He's scoring at Olympiacos. And now he's got a chance to score home and away against Panathinaikos. AEK Athens are going to go, I will give you the 5 million. We'll give you the 5 million. I think it's still touch and go whether Dessers actually stays or not. Danilo, maybe he's just needing a proper pre-season. He's put so much into pre-season that he was knackered and all that. Left a bit stranded by the players that were around him last Sunday. But he's come off the bench twice, scored against Celtic, Hampden and Ibrox last season. it's definitely there, Danilo, but it's just not happening with him. So I'm not sure if he's going to be a Rangers player, much like if he's what the new head coach wants. But I think we definitely need another striker. We probably need somebody else in midfield, and I would go with another centre half as well. At least I didn't talk to you about Joe Rothwell, did I? Joe Rothwell, 31 years old, or sorry, wait, no, he's 30, and he won't be 31 until January. He's a classic example of, say, the kind of player that's been signed. We've bought him from Bournemouth. We have bought him, a permanent signing, getting towards the end of his career. Central midfielder, and he's been promoted. It's a bad one to mention, not just because he played for Celtic, but because his partner later on, like Malky Mackay, when he was a player. You know, had his time at Celtic, and then he went down south, and he was at Watford. I'm sure there was somebody else. He was playing for Cardiff City? And did he go something like Burnley or West Ham? I'm getting McLaren and Ambers mixed up. It's somebody who was coming up at the second tier into top flight. He seemed to play for about 3 successive clubs, Malky Mackay, who he got promoted into the top flight, in England, but didn't go into top flight with him. He just stayed in the Championship, another club. And there's a hint of that with Joe Rothwell, Manchester born, come through the youth system at Manchester United, decided quite early, he's like, I'm not going to get a game for Man United, so I will go to Oxford United. And as a kid, he scored his first goal for a first team in professional football in the FA Cup for Oxford against Macclesfield. And he scored his first league goal for Oxford against Bury. So that's kind of the M60 circular. He's keeping it Manchester in his debut goals. I always think that's kind of quite nice. Makes him believe that magic is a thing, and he believes he should. He played for England's under 16, under 18, under 20s. It's every youth level. Never played for the England first team, the full team, and literally has got a Scottish granny, and he's talking about playing for Scotland, which, you know, half the tartan will be giving it. Is that right? You're just going to mince into it. We've got a perfectly fine midfield, thank you. No, I think you play for Rangers, and that's going to get into the Scotland team. But that's good. He wants to play for Scotland. But he's made his name at Blackburn. 4 seasons at Blackburn in midfield there, Blackburn Rovers. But I don't think at that point Blackburn were in the top flight in any of those seasons. He's ended up at Bournemouth. He's only had a few games for them when they're in the top flight, and he gets loaned out to Russell Martin, Southampton, where they're the second half of their promotion season in the Championship. So he's talking to Rangers TV saying one of the reasons I came here was for Russell Martin. He might just be sooking up with the boss, but it seemed he's genuinely enthusiastic about Russell Martin's methodology. So that's a good thing. He'll settle in pretty quick. So Egerman got up and shaking hands with him when he was sitting in the bike at St George's Park. He'll settle in pretty quick because all the players will be going, what's the skinny, what's the gaffer like? You know, how do you get in the good side of him? How do you get in the bad side of him? He'll have the gossip on Russell Martin for the rest of the players. But he was at Southampton. He gets him promoted, Russell Martin, in Bournemouth. I don't know if it's Southampton couldn't take him or whatever, but he stays in the Championship the following season. Goes to Leeds United, plays in the midfield there. Is Leeds United under Parag Marath's ownership get promoted back to the top flight? But he's no playing for them. Doesn't go back to Bournemouth. Bournemouth sell him to Rangers. So and Joe Rothwell, it kind of sums up the whole situation. Apparently he'd been up all night. He had a really tiring day the day he signed for Rangers, but he did the thing where they make him play a bit of keepy up, and it just so happens when I saw that, I'd been on my phone on holiday, I was sitting in bed, and as you and the wife are away on holiday, you know, everyone's a bit exotic, you're far from home, you're quite kind of chilled out, and let's watch some dirty videos on the old phone here. And what I like to watch is Ronaldinho doing keepy ups, footage of Ronaldinho or Ronaldo, Nazario de Lima, the Brazilian Ronaldo, scoring goals. And I like to watch players from my era, Batistuta. I'll watch stuff for the guys from my era, the 90s into the early 2000s. Ronaldinho, saw him playing for PSG, Milan, and Barcelona. Europa or UEFA Cup, Champions League, friendly. So I'm playing for 3 different clubs. I didn't win any of those games, but just do yourself a favour. Just put Ronaldinho into YouTube and watch the skills. There's a really famous clip of him and Thiago Motta as just standing chatting to each other before a training session at Milanello. And they've got all the winter gear on because it's the opposite of what's happening at St George's Park just now, where it looks absolutely roasting. This is 2 Brazilians in the freezing north of Italy, freezing Lombardy, winter at Milanello, AC Milan's training facility, and somebody just puts they're just getting ready obviously to do whatever it is they do at the training, and somebody just boots a ball towards him while Thiago Motta is chatting to Ronaldinho, and Thiago Motta just chips the ball up onto Ronaldinho's shoulder, and he just rolls it around his shoulder, down his arm, and boots it back to wherever off camera, wherever the ball came from, without even looking at the ball. It's brilliant flashes. If you ever tried to play any kind of football, of how amazing this guy was with the ball at his feet, with the ball anywhere, just the control he had. And I've been watching all that, and then I see, this guy Joe Rothwell signed for us. Here's a wee clip of him doing keep you up. I think he got three like keep you up, like the ball at his feet. He's got the shorts and that on. It's a full. But he was wearing the new. They're making them wear the new training gear. They're wear the new strips to sell the strips straight away. It's quite mental. The Rangers are no messing about. It's all very integrated. The commercial department are straight. He signed a new guy, right? We'll get him in the third kit that we're trying to launch. And I'm hearing bad reports of the third kit. It did look good with the grey, but the bottom half of it's all black. So he's back in black. He was back in black. Was Joe Rothwell. But the keep you up, it wasn't too encouraging. It's that way you're thinking, are we signing just to get, is the new tactics just going to be have it? Is that what the new manager's all about? But Joe Rothwell, he seems to know his way about the English Championship, and that's good enough for him to know his way about Scottish football. We are not going to get bullied. We're not going to get bullied domestically. 6'1" for a midfielder, not bad at all. Aye, folks, listen, I've gone on far too long, far too rapidly. The heat's definitely getting to me. Try and get back to you with some more. I've got to talk about something, but just the Panathinaikos thing's bubbling away in the background. Just Rangers general European football. I want us to do the business there. But I'm as excited about seeing how Rangers play against Panathinaikos as I am about qualifying for the Champions League. But I want to get back to you. I'm bound to have signed somebody else before. I'm going away on holiday again next week. I'm actually leaving the country again next week, so I'll probably not get back to you until a post-match reaction pod outside Ibrox. And I want these to be shorter. I want to do half-hour pods and all that. Not just because you deserve, your ears deserve a break from me, but there's just so much happening every time I talk to you, especially if I've been away for a week. So much has happened at Ibrox. I've got to get through all that and then the actual game itself. So I'll maybe try and slip in a quick one here or there before we play Panathinaikos, but don't take that threat too seriously. Why, say for what were Hop Yards meant, why was Burton built on Trent? Well, Mr. Houseman, it was for St George's Park, obviously the England national team, 2012, I think they built St George's Park, this new training facility. That was the point of that, the fancy mamby-pamby training facility. Get them down the Albion car park and see that. Well, no, actually, England had only ever reached one major final. That was the World Cup that they won in '66. You might have heard them mentioning that. But since 2012, they've been in two more major finals. The only time they've ever reached the final of the Euros. And they did it twice, both under Gareth Southgate. I think the women's team playing in the Euros just now, they're the holders of the Euros. So it's worked out quite well for England. So going with scientifically proven, it's no mamby-pamby, just go with the thought out, the blueprints, the scientific, the way ahead. Rangers should be doing that. We've got a training facility. It's well worth it, and it's well worth going to one. It's even better if it exists. And St George's Park seems to be that. But St George's Park, it was Gareth Southgate who managed England the two times that they got to the final of the Euros, the last two finals of the Euros. And Gareth Southgate played for Middlesbrough, didn't he? He was the captain of Middlesbrough when they lost the 2006 UEFA Cup final, 4-0 to Seville, and 2 goals scored by Enzo Maresca, the current Chelsea boss, who goes into that Club World Championship final against PSG on Sunday, whatever you think of that. And asked Gareth Southgate a few weeks later, 2 months later after they lost that European final, Middlesbrough, they came to Ibrox. I scored them off the list straight away as a European finalist, and we beat them 1-0. The only goal of the game scored by a Belgian, Thomas Buffel, under Paul Le Guen, and Paul Le Guen's management was so bad that we ended up with a period where Barry Ferguson was effectively the manager. Ian Durrant got it, technically. Was the caretaker manager until we got Walter in, and in that one game they were in charge. We get put out the Scottish Cup by Dunfermline up at East End Park. So the next round of the Scottish Cup, I went down to Middlesbrough, down to the Riverside, ostensibly really to see Arsene Wenger's Arsenal, particularly Gilberto Silva, but also to get to Riverside to tick that off the list of ground I hadn't been to. So I've seen Middlesbrough home and away, so I don't need to go. I won't go to this friendly that we're playing a week tomorrow against Middlesbrough. Sorry, not a week tomorrow, 2 weeks tomorrow, is it? 2 weeks tomorrow against Middlesbrough, but I'll hopefully beat the Panathinaikos game at Ibrox before that. That'll be the first game I miss, first Rangers home game that I'll miss since I think Harry Kane scores against us. Harry Kane, Gareth Southgate's main man up front when they get to Euros finals. He was scoring against us for Spurs the pre-season friendly. It's the last home Rangers game I think I've missed, and I'll be missing Middlesbrough coming out. And I don't know what's this. Is it related? I don't really know, but yeah, it's quite interesting to see PSG are playing. It's always illegitimate, isn't it? The French invented the World Cup, they invented the Euros, they invented the European Cup, and they eventually got their act together in the Euros, and then they eventually got their act together and they've won the World Cup as well, international level. But the club thing, so many teams in the final of the European Cup, Reims, Saint-Etienne, Monaco, losing. I know Monaco's a separate country, strictly speaking, but they play in Ligue 1. But they won it, didn't they, in 92, 93, but they weren't allowed to defend it with Olympique Marseille, because the dodginess that had gone on in Ligue 1 in the game before that. We were in the same group as them in the Champions League that season. He even signed Basil Bowley, but they weren't allowed to play in the Club World Championship final. They'd been cheating, Marseille, and now have got PSG, the only other French club to be champions of Europe, the only other French club to win a European trophy, and it's an amazingly bad record the French have got in European club competition. And when they do actually win the big one, when they do win a European trophy, there's a kind of illegitimacy about it. And it's been done legally as far as we know. PSG beating everybody and then scudding Inter in the final, and they've just stuffed Real Madrid in the semi-final of the Club World Championship. They beat Inter in the final of the Champions League. But it's just reminded me this Sunday of the fact that Marseille did not play in the Club World Championship equivalent final back in December 93. It was Sao Paulo, the champions of South America. We're talking the old Club World Championship, didn't exist then. It was the Intercontinental Cup. You had the winners of the Copa Libertadores would play the winners of the champions of South America would play the champions of Europe in a one-off game in Japan. Before that, it had been home and away, but that got a bit violent at times, and it became the one-off game in Japan. And the winners of that were your de facto club champions of the world in 93, Milan, who had lost that final. Milan had lost that final of the Champions League to Marseille, who were allowed to keep the trophy. Marseille they weren't allowed to defend it, but they're still champions of Europe in 1993. They weren't stripped of their title, but Milan went to Japan to play Sao Paulo. They lost. Sao Paulo beat them 3-2. Michael Beale's Brazilian team. But I don't know. They've got PSG, their ownership, and it might be discovered that they're doing financial non-fair play as well. PSG, the way they're operating, but the Qatari ownership, the stuff they do to gay folk, the stuff they just slavery they put folk into in Qatar. It's illegitimate in so many ways. It's proper sports washing because you watch them playing football thinking that's the most amazing football I've ever seen in my life. But at the same time, the way it's funded and what have you is just is horrendous. So it's difficult to watch that, but it's just reminded me of the fact that Rangers, well, if Marseille weren't allowed to play the authorities were quite happy to put Milan over there as a team that surely we should have played the European Cup. We should have got the Champions League final spot. We could have replayed that Champions League final. We're the other team, the team that came closest to qualifying for the final, other than Marseille, in that group, the quarter-final group stage. I don't know. We wouldn't have wanted it like that. We wouldn't have wanted it like that. But that's how close we came to being champions of Europe. That Milan team were amazing, but they had an off night. They had an off night in the final against Marseille, and Marseille played at Marseille, who we drew with home and away, were no better or worse than us. That Marseille side back in 92, 93. We would have played it exactly the same way. I'm convinced we would have won it. We'd have won it in Munich as well, the place where first-time winners always win the European Cup or Champions League final. But we wouldn't have wanted it that way, but that's how close we've come. This writing off the Champions League because we want to win a League Cup and a Scottish Cup this season. Bullshit. Let's really go for it against Panathinaikos. Let's have a cracking night at Ibrox and try to get ourselves... I wouldn't mind dropping into the Conference League because I think I've got a chance of winning it, but I still want to do something. I still want to do something in Europe this season. I don't want us to get out of all three competitions before the group stage. I'll leave you with... It's going really well just now. I feel as if... I feel that kind of buzz, that kind of... I went to Munich... I've been to Munich on holiday as well. Sorry, it's talk of Champions League finals, but going to Berlin... It's the fourth time I've been to Berlin. So it's so easy to get to. And they all speak great English, so you don't have any problems with the language, and the beer and the foods, it really suits me. But I used to get excited as a kid going to Salkits in the bus for Drussen, on a Saturday night. It's a bit boring. It's like going to Kilmarnock, that's quite exotic. That was quite exotic, all the way to Kilmarnock, and whoa. And then that's pretty. And then you get the train to Glasgow. Oh, now we're talking no mean city. This is blowing my mind and that. And as you get a bit older, you end up moving to Glasgow, and I love this city, but you get used to it and stuff like that. And you go to Berlin. You go to Berlin on holiday, and you get Bowie, Iggy Pop. And that's just really, this is what it's all about. I'm loving it. The Cold War, Bridge of Spies, all that kind of stuff. It's just Tinker Tailor. This is unreal. The stuff that used to be sitting, this used to be a death strip, and we're sitting here having a cornetto, surrounded by all the helmet Jans, Potsdamer Platz, and it's proper exotic. And getting on a flight, going to an airport, used to really, it's buzzing just to be in an airport. The sense of possibility. But as I get older than that and I get fatter, travel, the actual act of travelling almost puts me off going to Berlin. Because it's just, and staff are going to be rude to you and stuff like that, and maybe there's all seats, and I'm struggling to get into my seats now in flights. It could become quite bad, but then you're sitting, and it's just part of getting older. You get stuff doesn't blow you away anymore because you're used to it. You've done it. You do it a few times. It loses its edge, loses its buzz. But then last night in Berlin, we're walking along towards. We're actually going to sit in the hotel because it's so warm. It was roasting. It was absolutely roasting. There was a heat wave over there. As I was saying to you, it's really difficult for somebody my weight, but that's my own fault. But also my skin colour and what have you. But managed to knowing a place well also helps you negotiate that. And walking along, I was kind of sitting. Went for I grabbed a Durham. My wife wanted to get a currywurst before we left, and I ordered it wrong, and we ended up getting the wrong thing. But we sat there, just ate something outside. Everybody's sitting drinking, and that was nice. But it's like, we'll just go back to the hotel now, because we've a long day tomorrow getting back to Glasgow. And like, no, we'll go for a wee walk. I'll walk along the Spree, we'll walk along the riverside, and it's the Reichstag was just up in the back. We're at Friedrichstrasse. We're practically in Friedrichstrasse, Bahnhof Friedrichstrasse station. The trains going past on it. It was fantastic. We would go a walk along, and the sun was a beautiful looking night. And we just walked along the riverside and walked along to the Reichstag. It's beautiful, and then you could see all these folk down by the. I've never been to the Reichstag. I've been to Berlin 4 times. I've never been up the Fernsehturm. I've never been in the Reichstag because you've done the queues and all that, haven't you? You've done the queues and the waiting about with tourists in the airport. You've done enough of that. You want to feel relaxed as part of anything else. And they're beautiful, so beautiful looking from the outside. You want to take in the whole city. You don't want to be trapped inside anywhere. And walking along the riverside, and then you can see all these folk, the new buildings down on the banks of the river. Are they dancing? And there's all dance classes going on, impromptu, casual dance classes. It was like something out of a film, and a kind of film I wouldn't watch. It was like something, a musical. Everybody was dancing. There's little guys were teaching them. It was like salsa dancing, waltz, Viennese waltz stuff was all going on. Little different groups. And you're just walking amongst them. All that. It was beautiful. It was magical. And I'm thinking, I love this city. I love Berlin. I love being. This has just been. It doesn't matter how often you come, it can blow. And it's the same thing with Rangers. It's the same thing with it. It doesn't matter how much football I've seen. And my God, we're also cynical. When you get to my age, we're also cynical about the football. We can really dismiss a lot of stuff. Nothing proves anything until you're actually lifting trophies. Blah blah blah. But this. Every pre-season, as I was saying at the post-match reaction pod last week, it's just the same. You fall in love with the club all over again, or your love gets renewed, whatever it is. And to see us bringing in all these new players, it's a lovely thing to watch. It really is. It's no kind of dirty deeds done dirt cheap by a board that's struggling for money, or a bunch of cowboys that we had back in kind of 2012 onwards for a few years. Trying just to pull the wool over our eyes. This is guys that are properly invested. They might want to sell us on for a profit in a decade's time or whatever, but it's been done properly, and doesn't matter. Even this time last year, I was looking forward to going to Hampden because I was just looking forward to seeing Rangers. It's something you never lose that buzz. The new season, the possibilities, but it's also you've been away for your club, even if it's just for a month or so, to get to see us playing again. It's lovely, and never lose that excitement. Last Friday. The plane kind of leaves. We're flying out of Berlin airport there, and never been up the Fernsehturm, the massive tower that the basically not the Stasi, but the GDR, the communists built when the Soviet Union was basically. It's part of the Warsaw Pact, of course, East Germany, old East Germany, before the collapse of the wall, and they built this massive tower, which just so the whole of the West could see it. It was supposed to look like futuristic. It's like Sputnik's been spiked on a massive cocktail stick. It's this huge big tower, and you go to Alexanderplatz, and I've had the coffees underneath it and all that, and there's always a queue to get into it. And the thing is, when you're on the plane, when you're actually leaving, it's so flat, kind of Brandenburg or whatever, around Berlin. You get a cracking view. You look down on the Fernsehturm, it's sticking out for miles. It's like better than the Eiffel Tower, the CN Tower, all that kind of stuff. You can see it everywhere. You can see it everywhere. It's better even, I think, than the oh my God, so good I can't even remember the name of it. In New York, was the Empire State Building in New York, iconic and also magical, because if you're in Manhattan, you see it all the time. And I think that the Fernsehturm in Berlin has got the same kind of effect, but it's just bleak, brutalist, Soviet bloc style building, and it now looks so dated, but it's got past dated, and it looks iconic. And you're thinking, almost as you're walking about Berlin, you're thinking it's the horrors that happened here. What happened to Berlin at the end of the Second World War is beyond belief. It's absolutely horrific. A lot of folk thinking, well, they deserved it, the Germans. Berlin never really deserves it. Berlin's, plenty of shit happened up there. There's plenty of horrors went on. The Nazis and that did, burning down synagogues and that kind of thing. It all happened there. Bebelplatz, but sometimes and there was a whole kind of stooshy about rebuilding the Schloss, the old the palace up the top. It didn't get rebuilt during the communist periods, during the Eastern European up the top at Unter den Linden, because it was imperialism, it was a representative of imperialism. But they took out the balcony that Karl Liebknecht had declared the Socialist Republic of Germany at the end of the First World War in 1919. They took that out and they preserved it in another building across the roads. But there was this whole thing about, should you really bother rebuilding these buildings? But it has been rebuilt. It's been there the last two times I've been to Berlin. It's like they've actually rebuilt the Schloss. It's quite amazing. And you're thinking, should they rebuild that stuff? What's the kind of? But I thought, well, and a lot of the Stasi. I keep saying the Stasi. The East German government had built a big kind of 70s style People's Palace. It's like a shopping centre on Cumbernauld. This thing. But they had all sorts of, admin buildings and kind of parliament and stuff in there, the nominal parliament that the East Germans had. But shopping centres and restaurants and that kind of thing. And apparently it's really poorly built. But a lot of East Germans had grown up, they're now part of the West, and when Germany was reunited. And they said, but we love that place. That's actually, I got lots of really good memories for us. That's where we'd go on a Saturday night with our kids and stuff like that. So knocking that down and rebuilding the Schloss was quite kind of controversial in many ways. But I'm thinking about the East Germans, people who are sentimental, or still can't help, they had to live, they've no choice, had to live through the East German. So they've got the Fernsehturm, they've got it there as a total reminder over the whole city. It's now the biggest, it's the Eiffel Tower of Berlin. And so was it worth it? To have that tourist attraction? Was it worth all the years I've been under a communist regime? No, it absolutely wasn't. It absolutely wasn't. And is it like with Rangers, when we win the league in front of a crowd again, it's going to be magical beyond, but it doesn't mean that what happened to us in 2012 was worth it. It really wasn't. And I don't know. I don't know, but we're going to loom over the landscape of Scottish football again. The big shiny thing looking down in the rest of Scottish football. Once we get back to the top of the league and we win the league, it's probably not going to be this season under Russell Martin. Our main objective right now is probably to go through an entire season with the same manager for the first time since Steven Gerrard was here. First time in 5-6 seasons. But it's not been worth what we went through in 2011, 2012, but we should learn the lessons for that and not be too impatient, not be booing the team off the park. They don't settle in to their flow straight away, because it's going to be well worth it. Last Friday, I'm going to keep going with this, folks. Sorry, this is total self-indulgent nonsense. Sorry, it's going to be 2 hours long. But last Friday, when I come back, on the way back, as I say, we're practically living in Ichbeen in Friedrichstrasse Bahnhofer. So you're an idiot. You're an idiot if you get this is what poultices like me will say. You should never get a taxi. You never get a taxi from the airport to your hotel in Berlin city centre. Just get the train, get the S-Bahn. It goes straight for the airport. No, I'm no any more comfortable in that way than anybody else. You know, it's usually it's quite easy. Just jump in a taxi, gets you straight there. Even if the guy adds a few quid onto the route, whatever, that's fine. It's less of a headache for us and strangers in a strange land. But it's like the third time we went to Berlin, thought, all right, let's use the S-Bahn. It's cheaper. And this time we got the 7-day ticket, the 7-day pass that covers you for underground, overground, regional trains. You know, and it's like, it wasn't even €50, I don't think, which is what a taxi would for the airport is about €80 for the airport into the city centre. So straight away, you're saving straight away. And it's actually run out by the time you get the train back. It's the first day of the train, the ticket will be valid, but it's like €4 to get a single fare. Basically, our hotel was almost in Friedrichstrasse, Bahnhof, so you're just dragging the suitcases in there, get a lift straight onto the platform, and the only worry was because of the oppressive heat. You know, that we'd been on the train earlier in the week on S9 and say out to Spandau and see, you know, the AC/DC fans going to the concert. Then I think the next day we went to a different line down to Potsdam, and we couldn't go to San Souci and all that because it was so warm. It was just brutal. The heat was unforgiving, so we only dotted about a few sites in Potsdam. And what had happened was, you know, and there's all the connotations, all the horrible connotations with Germany. We can't help it, especially if you're a foreign traveller there, you're just visiting for a week every few years. The trains run on time. I think there's always that wee kind of negative connotation about that, horrific connotation about that. But the train broke down when I really wanted it to run, because that way the windows are open, there's a breeze. There's no air conditioning in the trains except the natural air conditioning of opening the windows, and the train was rammed by tourists like ourselves. So the body heat was off the scale. It was a heat wave hitting Germany itself. I'm 23 stone, ginger, baldy, and the train stopped. It wasn't going anywhere. The doors weren't opening. It wasn't moving, and the heat was building up instantly. And it was a stop before Wannsee, where they had the Wannsee conference, where they designed the final solution, where Heydrich, as played by, you know, Sir Kenneth Branagh in that wee dramatisation, Stanley Tucci, I think, played Adolf Eichmann. But that's when it first came to my attention, the Wannsee conference, and that was the station that it broke down. I'm thinking about Schindler's List when Liam Neeson's hosing down the train. That's a bit of a sick comparison, a slight exaggeration on my part, but you're sitting in a boiling train in the heat. I always think about that when I'm stuck in a boiling train in the heat, a train that's no moving. You think about that scene, like, I can't believe that. The train isn't running, and it's near the place where they actually fucking designed the Holocaust. There's a conference, if you look into it once, is it WANSEE, the Wannsee Conference, 1943. They're already, you know, totally horrifically annihilating Jewish people, but they properly stepped it up and formalised it at Wannsee. I don't believe this, and the train stopped there on the way back as well. There was obviously a problem. It sat there for ages, and it was brutal. And our hotel room was one of the ones, the window didn't open, and it was a bit kind of, it's not a big deal, but it's like a bit of fresh air to go through the room and what have you when it's those kind of temperatures. So the journey from Friedrichstrasse to the airport, it was fine getting in there because it was at night time and it was nice and cool and it wasn't too busy, but it was rammed. We were leaving at the flight's at 6 o'clock. We were leaving kind of early afternoon, and it was just brutal heat. So we get into the train, we jump onto the train, and not only do we get two seats together, but we got two seats that are like facing the back of other seats. You know, you get in the trains, you get it in Scotland as well. Every now and then there'll be a wee two-seater that you're not even facing anybody else. You don't have to talk. And we managed to squeeze the suitcases in, and the window was open, and we're right up at the top of a carriage. So it's just like there's just only about half a dozen folk, and the rest of the carriage. This is great. And we were, my wife and I going, yeah, wow. She was slagging me for the fact that I'm so uptight about heat and all that, you know. And my misophonia, I've got misophonia, which I've never actually had formally diagnosed because it doesn't exist. It's not a real thing, but I've read articles on it. I think it's just if I've had, you know, a whole rotisserie chicken and maybe a coffee or something like that, just makes you uptight. Folk are, you know, talking, and your kind of periphery, your anybody's moving repetitively, like, you know, you get folk that tap their fingers and all that, in their periphery vision, your periphery hearing, folk touching each other, folk eating something, making mouth noises. It drives me completely mental. I can't handle But it seems to coincide with times when I'm overheated and really morbidly obese. So I don't know how legitimate the misophonia thing is, but I definitely suffer from that. If suffering from it just means I'm an irritable old git. But we're on this, and the train's buzzing along, and it's great. It's, oh yeah, and it's my wife slagging me. It's, oh yeah, it's like we're celebrating, going, yeah, as if we'd won the Scottish Cup or something. We're celebrating the fact we had a wee seat to ourselves, but that was us all the way to the airport. We were locked in. We could enjoy the train journey. The windows were open. It was fantastic. And then we're sitting there, and there was a wee lassie, teenager, at one of the seats across us, and she's on her phone to her boyfriend that turned out. And we're just taking out like your people watching me on a holiday, or people listening because she wouldn't shut up. She's talking away, German obviously, can't understand a word she's saying, but it was so funny because she wasn't taking a breath. Other folk in the carriage are kind of, and she's obviously chatting to, and every now and then you hear this boy going, yeah, no, in German. It's obviously a teenage boy she's talking to, but she wouldn't shut up, and it was hilarious, because she's chatting away, obviously enjoying the weather and what have you, and there's they're going wherever she was going, for a wee day out. And there was a couple straight across from us as well, and they were, probably in their late 40s, and they've got the hiking gear on, but the woman's sitting stroking her husband because he was so kind of cool and what have you. And we're sitting going, I'm saying, how come you're not sitting, stroking me and all that, as if you pure fancy me? That's the thing, is our marriage over? And she's like, well, don't joke about stuff like that. But we're just like, it was kind of, check out, we still have sex, we're sexy, it's just like, that's great. It's the Germans, it's hilarious looking at it. And there was a young lassie who was a kind of, I think she was a punk or something. She's got the nose ring in, the kind of mad hair. That reminds me, when I was at uni, there was Germans, and they've always got that kind of grungy punk thing going on, like they're all squatters for West Berlin in the 1970s, that kind of idea. That's great. It's fantastic vibe. And I think it was just before we got to Warschauer Strasse. It was about 4 or 5 stops later. And that's we'll stop the last time we were in Berlin. The last hotel we were at. This woman, she's probably about 70. Quite wee, big Le Corbusier specs on. She gets up and she says something to one of the folk in German, and they get straight up and shut the window. She's basically saying, I don't speak German, but you could tell she's just basically going, I can't handle that draft. That window's creating a draft. It's bothering my neck. Going to shut that window. And that was it. Suddenly, I'd gone from all cocky, celebrating away, having a laugh, and loving fun. And suddenly I was in like a greenhouse, a sealed greenhouse that was and she didn't get off until was at Adelhof or something like that. About 4 stops for the end. It's like an hour-long journey from Friedrichstrasse to the airport, to the Flughafen. And it was, and that couple, she's touching the guy. Why are you stroking your husband a bit? Don't touch each other. It's clatty in here. That's just driving me mad. And the wee lassie wouldn't. She won't. I'll take that phone off her and chuck it out that window that I can't open. And the lassie sitting across visits get the nose ring, and she's like twiddling with her hair. She's just twiddling. Wish you'd fucking stop that. And the woman had actually ordered the window to be shut. She sits and she's got a wee handbag on her. And I don't know if it's like macaroon bars or something, but she was practically she would hardly pull them out the bag, but she's putting her mouth down to the bag and so the idea, don't celebrate too early. Don't be celebrating too early like I'm doing just now, because it's going really well just now, but it will go wrong. It will go wrong under Russell Martin. There will be slips. Let's not celebrate. We've got our own misophonia as a support, which is any setback domestically whatsoever we go absolutely mental about and slag 7 shades out of our own players when they're trying to get confidence and gain momentum. Cyril Desser's, I know he scored the winner in the last minute there. For other clubs, that's exciting, but he missed 9 chances before that. He's absolutely good. I know we've just beat Dundee, but they scored 3 goals against us. That's just not good enough. We've got our own kind of misophonia when it comes to just letting things get on our nerves really, really early. But I think we can afford to be patient, because the arrival gate at Ibrox is inundated and there'll be no passengers. Sorry, but I think together, a bit of planning and a following wind, a lovely cooling breeze of competence, we will get to our destination, and the taxi driver to the house won't be a nutter, and everything will work out absolutely perfectly. Listen, folks, if I don't see, I won't talk to you before tomorrow, the 12th, get on plenty, factor 50. Get yourself sunscreened tomorrow, and I hope you enjoy tomorrow, the 12th, the big parade and all that. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I would be if it wasn't the fact that Lorraine Kelly is comparing it to the big ceremony, the Island Games, the opening in Kirkwall up Norton, they're having the Island Games up there. Lorraine Kelly, she's not. They're going to parade of all the athletes. I would have gone to the game. I would have gone there. You get to see the fit, but another Anorak tick. It's like the Falkland Islands will be playing against Shetland. The Island Islands playing against the Isle of Wight at the Fitbit and all that, but it's all part of the other sports, cycling and all that kind of thing as well. But Isle of Man always do well at the Fitbit because they've all got 3 legs. They've got 3 legs, folk for the Isle of Man. But just make sure you enjoy the games in Kirkwall, but there's so many athletes going there that actually have trouble housing them all. So there's no accommodation. I can't go up there. I can't do that. So I'll probably end up going to an Orange Walk or something. And for those about to walk, we salute you.